Good evening, chat. Welcome. It's Friday night, and we are. And I apologize. I got a little sidetracked. The casino getting ready just to cut Darkseid Phil's head off with It's a Gundam. It's been pretty amusing so far. So I apologize for not being on time. I mean, it's a tier one snaking. I can say that much. I can say that much at least. So we are here. Lost a little track time there. So with that said, chat, welcome to the show. My name is Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I'm an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And tonight we're talking about Ohio stuff. Why? Because I live in Ohio, and if you don't like it, well, you can eat blackberry molasses out my asses on this one. This one is interesting because it's two conventions, known as cons, and there's a lawsuit going on between them. And it's not like Comic-Con or LA. I mean, it's two cons here in Ohio, but it's interesting how these guys are going and what's happened here. I just think it's very interesting what's happened and what they're doing and how they attempted to resolve their problems and, just what these people are looking at ultimately, like what they're looking at, what might happen. Because it's all about, remember, chat, the law is the law a lot of places everywhere you go. It's the facts and the story that make this law colorful. And here it's about going to cons. And I know some of you guys do this. So I thought you might enjoy it. I 2.0 got back from my shift to Valvoline. Jeez. 2.0 got me this shirt. It's very nice. Comic-Con's in San Diego, and it's been homogenized to hell, yes. When is the Clyde Con for Clyde? That would be funny. That would be so fun to do a Clyde Con. That would be great. Clyde, we are doing a con, buddy. It's all for you. Yes, won't you please come to Ohio? No, Kent State's for losers. Well, the rifle team there is pretty good. Kent State. Maddie says I'm boring. Oh, well, you'll suffer. You'll just have to suffer. And then what else we got here? Maddie says, whoever says I want to go on a vacation to Ohio, it's like, where do you think your mom gets that DIOC? Your mom's going on a trip. She's getting that DIOC. She comes to Ohio. That's where she's going. She's coming to Ohio for that. So that's who does. They're doing, yes, the Formula One sprint race will be in a couple hours. Yes, Ashley's right. Ohio's awful. Don't move here, especially from California. Do not come to Ohio or New York. Do not come to Ohio. It's not a train convention. So Ohio's the only state that had a river catch fire. Yeah, well, you'll deal with it. Maddie thinks insulting the person that birthed me bothers me. If you knew what I did to her, it would bother you. Let me tell you what, if you knew what we did, ooh, buddy, Lord child. It's caught on fire more than once. Yes, it has. Golden Mongoose says Dayton, Ohio is fine, but not Cincinnati. Well, Cincinnati's got its own problems. Nobody's ever been like, hey, no one's proud to be from Cincinnati. Bama Law was on covering trendy arugula tonight. Yes, if you guys saw him over on his channel, he was doing a pretty good show. I really hate myself. Well, you got to help all the women out there. Got to help all the women out there when they want it. Gary Pinkle is a Toledo alum. Yeah, hey, there are some interesting people that have ties to Ohio. And Whiskey 77 says, fuck YouTube for not letting me send a derogatory super chat about Ohioans. Oh, thank you, Whiskey. And guys, if you have seen them, they're on Assholes React. And it's assholes with the $signs in it. And you guys could find them here on YouTube. They're doing Sunday nights around 9 p.m. Eastern. Him and 3 beers hanging out, having a good time. They got their They got their upgrades done. They got their gear working, and they're ready to kick ass. But all right, so we're going to get started here. You guys have had a couple minutes. I know not a lot of people are interested in this one, but I thought it was interesting, and that's why I'm doing it. I'm dressed like a pop copy employee. Guys are all assholes. Jesus. 2.0 got me this shirt. I enjoy it. All right. So there are two organizations here that we're dealing with. The first one's Ohayocon. And it's kind of like a combination of the word Ohio and Ohio. And Ohio is like, good morning in Japanese. And yes, it's a con. So imagine that. It's all about like anime and weeb shit. Shocker. I know. Shocker. So that's what happens. This is Ohayocon. And it looks like Ohayocon, but it's Ohayocon. All right. Now, Ohayocon has a logo, and they had a logo for a while. That was, where is it? Creep. Where did I have it just now? Oh, there we go. I lost because I had the page up. But Ohayocon is just actually happened this past spring. And this is Ohayocon, if you guys haven't seen it. They do it in Columbus this year. They did it in Dayton, Ohio. But this is Ohayocon. Look at it in all its splendor. They have a logo and everything, and they've already had issues. The Red Cross came after them because initially this was all in red, and the cross was in red, and the Red Cross like, y'all can't do that. And eventually they changed it. So this is Ohayocon. And I guess you'd call them like an insurgent faction of Ohayocon. Became the Sekai Guild. Now, what are they? And they're all about, and this is the same thing for Ohayocon. It's dedicated to promoting cross-cultural understanding through inclusive spaces that celebrate, educate, and inspire a sense of global citizenship through the promotion of the arts. They could just say, we really like anime. We just really like anime. And you know what? There might be wrong things with that, but just say it. Just say it. Just say it. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. What? I know, he came in and they ran back. I was trying to finish my comment. Mexican Vader says, is this similar to SawCon? Is it held in the village of These Nuts? But yes, this is an entire thing about it's all about, and it's all about cultural education. It's like, yeah, I just like anime. Why can't you just say that? Just say you like anime. There's nothing, ultimately nothing wrong with that, but with cultural education, it's like, I just like anime. I like anime cities. Like, just say what you want. Say what you want. Ohayocon is a similar thing there. It's about, Ohayocon, chat, is run by and owned by an organization called the Cultural Exchange Society. And it's an incorporated entity here in Ohio. So you're like, once again, we're churching things up just a wee bit. So from here, we're going to talk about basically Ohayocon. It's been around for like 25 years now, and it's been in the last about 2.5 years where things really went sideways. So starting in 2023. And what happened is a lawsuit got filed here in Ohio, and Hamilton County is down in Cincinnati. And it's the Cultural Exchange Society Incorporated. So Ohayocon itself, like the entity that owns it, a person named Melissa Ann Phelps, she is kind of one of the people running things. Emily DeJesus is also one of the big people there. And they have versus Sekai Guild. And it's these people, you're going to see their names pop up. Dale Duffy, Matt Geisen, Jared Hightower. They have Cody Markham, Benjamin Wynn, Aaron Reinhardt, Kristen Reinhardt, Liam Rigsby. All these people are listed as defendants. And yeah, it's interesting. This guy lives in up here in Euclid. He lives up in Cleveland, but most of these people, And, Jared lives in Brook Park. That's up in Cleveland, too. But most of these people are down in the Cincinnati and Dayton area. So, this is a complaint, and they want a complaint. They also want injunctive relief, and we'll talk about what they might get or how they got it. Now, this has been filed a little while ago. This is filed back in January. And also, just so you guys understand, when in Ohio, the Court of Common Pleas is where you go for felonies. It's where juvenile courts have their authority. It's where probate courts have their authority. It's where lawsuits greater than $15,000 in value have authority. So that's why you see it's called the Court of Common Pleas. That's what we call these here in Ohio. You don't like their superior court, all that other shit. We don't have that here. So, oh, hold on. Bella's saying justice for Clyde. Oh, hold on. I think I can do that. Jesus, did you go outside, buddy? It's like you're wet. Where he shoved his face in the water. It's not raining outside. How did you do that? How did you do that, sir? Huh? Okay, you guys want Clyde for 5 seconds? Here you go. Well, hi, Bubba Bear. You got something to say? Something about JFK files? Have you read through them, Clyde? Did you do a report on those yet? You're like, it's a little sus. You only see Israel mentioned 2 times. But you see the KGB mentioned 25,000 times. Yeah, he's looking very fluffy. He shoved his face in the water because now it's all wet. And he's got so many hair mats right now from he just gets them anyway. But yeah, he's got like his face is all fucked up in the front. We're gonna set you down, okay, Papa Bear? I'm gonna set you on the ground. But we got our mascot here, Clyde. Mwah. Anything else you want to say, buddy? Huh? He wants to go to sleep. I'm like, I can't hold you. My arm will fall asleep before that happens. I got you. You're okay. All right. Clyde's getting a haircut next week, chat. Don't worry. So anyways, this is where you file big time lawsuits, and this is what you do like everything in Ohio. So they are seeking they have their complaint. They want temporary, preliminary, and permanent injunctive relief, and they want equitable relief against the Sekai Guild, and these people are all part of it. Now, this comes under the Ohio Uniform Trade Secrets Act, and we're going to get to this. And it's because ultimately they hacked, theft, misappropriated, and used the digital and physical assets, the business information, and secrets of the Cultural Exchange Society. We're gonna explain, and we're gonna get into this. It's actually kind of interesting what happened to Ohayocon and what the Sekai Guild people did to Ohayocon, because they did some things here. It's Sekai, I don't know. Sekai, I don't know. Do I look like I speak anime? Anderson Cooper? Is Clyde smarter than the pug? Oh, 100% he is. And they talk about the president of the Cultural Exchange Society, Melissa Phelps and Emily DeJesus, and it relates to their 3-day anime Ohayocon convention, which is funny because in the lawsuit, they on the website it's like, oh, it's all about cultural exchange, and here it's an anime convention. So what the allegations are, the defendants jointly and severally, meaning either in their own individual capacities or working together, they stole the valuable assets of the Cultural Exchange Society when they tried to extort them into handing over control of the convention to them, under the guise of an effort to organize the convention's all-volunteer, non-employee workforce. And that's actually very common, guys. A lot of these conventions use volunteer workers, and these workers, they tried to unionize, more or less. They tried collective action. And you can't really get recognized as a labor union because you're volunteers. But they try to basically organize and do collective bargaining. Didn't go so well. So they also allege that upon the failure of organizing, they stole from the plaintiffs and tortiously interfered with existing contracts and with prospective business. We're going to get to that. And they specifically state in the case of Hightower, he breached his fiduciary duties. They were defamed, and they portrayed the plaintiffs in a false light, and they wrongfully intruded into the private affairs of Ms. DeJesus. And we're going to get to what they did all here. So they further allege they did so jointly and willfully and deliberately to harm their business and to advance their own competing convention called SekaiCon. And it's an actual thing, guys. It's here. They talk about like their actual thing, their convention. It is April 11th in Columbus. If you want to go, if you want to go there, that's where you go if you really want to do it. So yeah, here you go. It's in Newark, Ohio, or if you're from that area, Newark, Ohio. It's home to L Brands and everybody there. Call Akron the Zippos. No, they're just the Zips. So this is where you want to go if you want to go to it. I am not driving. T-Rex, I have tickets. That's like a 3-hour drive. I am not driving all the way to goddamn Newark. There's a lot of things I would rather do than go to Newark, Ohio. Like shoot myself in the face. Like, I'm not joking. Like, I would so just in the parking lot of the gas station, like where I live, before I drive all the way down there. I got a booth there. Yeah. Class field trip. Oh, so anyways, this is their, you're going to be among the first to, dive into a world of vibrant fandoms. So you can apply to be a panelist, chat. You could be a special guest. You could be a featured panelist. Like, what do they have for guests at this thing? I don't know who these fucking people are. I don't know. I don't know who any of these people are. Okay, yeah, I don't know. Never heard of them. So, Ohio, to you, Sean. Hello, mean copium. Yeah, see, we're doing Japanese lingo tonight, chat. I'm culturing you people. But yeah, I don't know who these people are. I've never heard of them. Hack, I don't know, or I don't, whatever. Oh, and look at Tranny, not surprised. Yeah, gaming, you can do all kinds of shit. There's all kinds of things you can do. There's panels, chat. It's like a real con. They have a Japanese language school. All kinds of shit. Josh, you should be here, man. But anyways, this is all what's going on there. It's an actual organization. It's an actual event. So now there's competing, business interests because these things make money. People do them because they like it, but there's also money involved in all these. So in addition to the preliminary and injunctive relief, they're also seeking statutory damages, compensatory damages, liquidated damages, treble damages, special damages, treble damages. Not base damages. They're not about that base. They're only about treble. Equitable relief, pre and post judgment interest, punitive damages, reimbursement of attorney's fees, and all other relief. So now they talk about this. Actually, here kind of breaks things down. I'll have a hugging booth there. Oh no, don't say that. So the Cultural Exchange Society, CES, is a non-for-profit organization in the laws of the state of Ohio, with its principal place of business in Hamilton County. Melissa Phelps is a resident of Boone County, Kentucky, which is across the river, and the president of CES. Emily DeJesus is a resident of Indiana and an agent of CES. Sekai Guild has been a nonprofit incorporated under the laws of the state of Ohio. Principal place of business in Franklin County, Ohio. Franklin County is where Columbus is, so you have Cincinnati and Columbus. Columbus is right in the middle of the state, and Cincinnati is way down in the southwest corner, right on the border with Indiana and Kentucky. They talk about Daniel Dufree has been a resident of Hamilton County. Matt Geisen has been a resident of Riverside County, California. So you're like, well, wait, how does that work if he lives in California and this is all about Ohio stuff? Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to why that matters. Jared Hightower, also known as Sophia Legrand, has been a resident of Cuyahoga County, Ohio. That's where Cleveland is. At all times relevant to the complaint. Cody Markham has been a resident of Franklin County, Ohio. Benjamin Wynn has been a resident of Franklin County, Ohio. Aaron Reinhardt's been a resident of Franklin County, Ohio. In all times relevant to this complaint, Kristen Reinhardt has been a resident of Franklin County, Ohio. Liam Rigsby, also known as Cable, has been a resident of Cuyahoga County, Ohio. And keep in mind these names, chat, because these are going to be important. Michelle Steins has been a resident of Franklin County, Ohio. And Griffin Voles, also known as Griffin Parker, which that's not really creative, has been a resident of Montgomery County, Ohio. That's where Dayton is, just up the road from Cincinnati. And they say the court has personal jurisdiction over the Ohio resident parties named in this action because they reside in Ohio. And that is 100% true. You don't have to live in that county. You just have to live in the state of Ohio to have personal jurisdiction over people. Remember, there's subject matter jurisdiction. Can the court hear the case? But then there's personal jurisdiction. Do you have, are you subject to the laws of the state? Now, the guy that's in California, Geisen, is under Ohio's long arm statute. And the long arm statute allows Ohio to use the long arm of the law to hail you into a court here because he's transacted business in Ohio. He caused the tort by act or omission in Ohio. He caused the tort in Ohio by an act or omission outside Ohio. But he regularly does business or engages in a course of conduct and derives revenue from things in Ohio. He caused the injury in Ohio to any person by an act outside of Ohio. And when that person might have reasonably expected that they would be injured here in Ohio. So that is how they do this. This court's exercise of jurisdiction over him is also consistent with the Ohio Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. Now, that is a big thing, chat. I've mentioned it before. I mentioned this before, chat. You've heard me talk about it in federal cases. It's called international shoe. That's a standard for long arm statutes. And that's what allows it. So the long arm statutes allow states to give people the right to sue and hail in parties that are out of state. Otherwise, if you didn't have minimal contact, if you didn't have this guy in California would be invincible from a lawsuit there. It allows you to establish minimal contacts. Now, the court has subject matter jurisdiction over the alleged controversy, and that's because this is an amount in excess of $15,000. Therefore, already you're automatically there. There's also certain times when you invoke certain laws, you're stuck with common pleas court, but the amount in excess of $15,000 is, the easiest way to do it. The venue is appropriate because Hamilton County, they just say we could do that here. And the rules of superintendents from the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court's rules of superintendents are how courts should govern themselves, but also local rule 48 of Hamilton County. Remember, chat, you have to know your local rules and you have to know all the rules you're playing by. Local rules are what generally trip you up if you're not paying attention. So they talk about Ohayocon at the beginning. Now they reallege and incorporate the proceeding. They reallege and incorporate the proceeding. Sorry, guys. Here's the local rule stuff. The plans re-reg incorporate the preceding paragraphs as if fully rewritten. You got to do generally, when I say this, you got to put the paragraph numbers in, 21, 1 through 21. You got to do that. If you don't do that, this is kind of lazy. So they talk about January 2001. Phelps organized a then small anime convention called Ohayocon in Cleveland. At the time, the convention was operated by a guy named Scott or Genzio. The name Ohayocon is derived from the similarity between the words Ohio and Ohayu, which means good morning in Japanese. Hello, chat. So there you go. You learned some Japanese today, chat. And con, which is short for convention. The 2001 convention attracted around 350 attendees. They say since 2001, it's offered an anime music contest, an artist alley, concerts, costume contest, a dealer's room, a formal ball, a masquerade, musical events, panel discussions, a rave, tabletop games, tournaments, workshops, and to a much lesser extent, video gaming. Because that's the thing. Oh, it's Ohio and Ohio are pronounced exactly the same. Okay. Okay, so it's Ohio and Ohio. Ohio. So I'm just gonna walk around in the morning in Japan and everybody's gonna be like, Ohio, Ohio. uh, it's almost identical in pronunciation. Thank you. And so did Meme Copium pointed that as well. Thought it was Ohio. Okay, Ohio. 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 So they talk about more, and they talk about in January of 2003, 2,000 people showed up. In 2004, they had over 3,000. In 2005, there were 4,000 paying attendees. And that's the thing, chat. This brings in money. Brings in money. 2006, they had like 4,400 people. They talk about now the defendant Markham began his tenure as convention director in January 2009. This is an unpaid volunteer position where he donated a few hours of his time every year in exchange for complimentary admission to the convention and a free hotel room. He earned no salary, wages, or benefits. He served at the pleasure of the board for CES. He had no authority, no position of leadership whatsoever. His title was ceremonial. He was never an owner, member, partner, director, officer, employee, contractor, or agent. So Phillips transferred control of the convention to Melissa Phelps at a non-party in 2010 when it had 10,000 attendees. That's actually pretty big. Like, it's growing. It's growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. In 2010, she organized Ohayocon LLC as a Kentucky limited liability company to operate the convention. So between 2021 and 2020, the convention hosted between 13,000 and 14,000 attendees each year. That's actually quite a bit. That's quite a bit, chat. I'm like 5'7". Yes, I am 5'7". Yes, my next trial says Ohio, jury members. No, I'll say Ohio in the afternoons. Well, yeah, I'll say whenever I want. I'm American. I'll do what I want. I learned that from Johnny Somali. Just do what you want. But anyways, guys, this got bigger and bigger and bigger. The convention took place online due to COVID pandemic, but returned to the Hyatt Regency Center in January 2022. At the time, one of the people stepped away and relinquished all rights of the convention to Melissa Phelps. So she's now the sole owner. Make sure you bow when you say it. Oh, I thought you only bow when you're like, bonsai! Anyways, March 2022, she organized CES to operate and manage the convention as a nonprofit. And this is this is where things start happening, chat. They elected their first board of directors. They passed bylaws. The initial board consisted of defendant Hightower, Phelps as president, DeHazes as an officer, and non-parties, Abby Burning and Molly Phelps as officers. So in early January 2023, and this is where things start happening, Markham alerted the board to alleged grumblings among the volunteers related to its supposed mismanagement. The board told him to review the complaints, the policies, and propose improvements going forward. That year, the convention had an operating budget in excess of $500,000. Now, I know that's a lot, not a lot for a lot of cons, guys, but this shit has serious money. Like, there's real fucking money involved. Markham was ending his term as the convention director, and ultimately, he proved unresponsive to the tasks assigned by him by the board and failed to come up with any recommendations. And this is because Markham lied about the existence of such complaints to mislead the board and lay a false foundation for what was to come. So what happens? Well, there was a coup by Markham, Hightower, and the senior leadership. So Hightower quit the CES board in 2023. Unbeknownst to the plaintiffs, Hightower had been coordinating with the self-styled senior leadership of the convention since July 2002 to form an organization called, and this is the thing about all the con people. This starts getting cringe. The Conventions of Ohio Volunteer Event Network, Coven. Oh my God. Like, I read through this before and I'm like, and I started doing all the lore on this and I'm like, wow. Like, you guys are not helping yourselves here. So, not among the parties to this action, among the others not parties to this action, the leadership of Coven were made up of the defendant Steins, who did merchandising, Wynn, who did gaming director, Rigsby operations, Reinhardt marketing, Duffy systems and IT. Reinhardt did staff amenities. Indies did the indie game, Falls did indie gaming, and Markham was their director. The board didn't know about the involvement or coordination with Coven. Yes, you're very correct, Keopathic. Coven. Quoven. Like Markham, the other members of senior leadership were unpaid volunteers who donate a few hours of their time every year in exchange for complimentary admission and hotel rooms, which is, there are no salary, wages, or benefits. They served at the pleasure of the board. They had no authority. Their titles were ceremonial at best. None of them were owners, members, partners, directors, officers, employees, contractors, or agents of CES. And upon information or belief, former convention staffer Geisen assists Coven with organization and financing. So in March, Hightower went to the board with Coven's self-styled manifesto. And this is, I love this with the attorney writing this. The nonsensical manifesto states, and this is their fucking look at this shit. This is a bunch of convention staff reeing and reeing and reeing. So they say, we have long suffered myriad abuses. You mean a myriad of abuses and ineptitudes. I mean, the way this starts, it's almost like when in the course of human events. They're trying to do this like it's a declaration here. At the hands of the officers of Ohayocon and CES, we unite in solidarity. The communism sleep is just seeping in, chat. As they start talking and you're reading this, you just hear, like you hear that just going on. Could it be inequities? Well, no, inequities consider it like sinful. It could be ineptitude. Incompetency. Yes, it's not real socialism. Oh, they would sing the Internationale. Yeah, but not as many people know that, though. Not as many people know the Internationale. With a bunch of left-wing people in America, they're more likely going to sing De Colores. So that you're more likely to get that. Because I do know all the words of De Colores, and I'm proud to be an American. See if you know that lyrics out there, chat. So they say, whereas the Cultural Exchange Society, CES, its board president has tactlessly eroded our community relationships, appointing kin and close friends to board seats with no elected representation, spearheaded creating a farcical mission statement, embargoed information relating to board discussions, and finances for most of our leadership. Well, you ain't entitled to that shit, buddy. Ignored our organizational structure, maintain creative control and alignment with her friend's personal interests. That's because she owns all of it. Like, come on now. Argued labor performed outside of Ohiocon's operating hours should not count towards a worker service quota. Begrudged us any form of compensation beyond expenses incurred. I don't see the problem here. They held inconsistent definitions of incurred expenses, required us to give up meal tickets in order to elect to stay in the Drury, refused to grant budgets, and required us to submit funding requests for every small expense. And we condemned the board president's request for a large compensation package, which began when the organization had very little in the bank and have shamelessly increased to a total of $59,300. Like I said, chat, there's a lot of money at stake. A lot of people want to wet that beak. Everybody wants to wet the beak. So they say, we recognize the establishment of the board as a ruse to offload responsibility to others while using it as a cudgel of manufactured legitimacy. Yes, that's how corporate structures work. This was so funny to read earlier. We believe the attempt to establish CES as a charity is an attempt to evade tax responsibility from the state and federal governments. Yes, that's what it's meant for. Exactly. You think people want to pay their taxes? No. Duh. And to mislead us and our community into believing we are serving some greater good rather than the board president's interest. I got news for you. It's how it's always been. Board president has demonstrated contempt for our president and former Ohayocon workers who bring grievances to light. We declare these universal rights of convention workers and enumerate our demands against the exploitation of Ohiocon's loyal and dedicated staff. I wish I could just play the, hold on. You know what? We're just going to play it in the background. We're going to play the International while I'm talking here. We're going to play this in the background, chat. This is the, let me see if I can. Yeah. Well, actually, no, this is in Chinese. That's not going to work. Yeah, here we go. Yes. Well, we'll have this playing in the background, chat. Oh, actually, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how am I going to have this. I don't know how to have this playing in the background. I don't know how to do that at the same time as this is going. So play the black men singing the Chinese song. Well, maybe I'll dub it in later. So the Covenant Declaration of the Universal Rights of Convention Workers. You know, like there's people in like Darfur getting fucking exterminated right now by like the Janjaweed, known as the Rapid Support Forces. There are people out there banging it out with 3D printed guns against the Chinese-backed Myanmar government. Like there's all kinds of shit going down in the world. And these guys are talking about their universal rights. In addition to all workers' rights afforded by law and custom, which you're not going to get because you're not paid, all workers shall be justly compensated for work performed. We're getting to that point. All workers shall be provided with appropriate safety equipment in a safe workplace free of harassment and hostility. Okay. All workers shall be informed of their organization's ownership structure, current owners and board members, and corporation status, for-profit, non-profit, stock or non-stock status. Yes, Tovarish. Yes. Da, Tovarish. Yagorio Paruski as well. During the onboarding process and anytime they change structure or status, all workers as a class shall be entitled to at least majority representation and the organization's supremium of authority, whether through collective ownership, bylaw, or policy. It's like fucking Vosh wrote this shit, isn't it? Like I told you guys. Suffolk commies. I told you this is going to be good. All workers. God, the Sekai Guild people are going to fucking hate me. Oh, well. Suffolk Guild, maybe. All workers shall be entitled to benefits and obligations of a code of conduct applicable to all stakeholders of the organization. And such codes of conduct shall prohibit harassment and nepotism. All workers shall be given equitable opportunities for lodging during functions of their organization at which they are in attendance, and the specifics of such lodging shall not be altered from the beginning to the end of each function, except as provided for in the code of conduct. All workers shall be entitled to organize formally or informally, Tovarsh, and ownership and or board recognition of such groups to bargain collectively. Yeah, no, that's what. Yeah, no, we ain't doing this. Board members shall be entitled to vote on funding or investing in other businesses, and all workers shall be notified prior to such investments and funding. Assembled in solidarity. We demand immediate adoption of bylaws amendment to require at least a majority of the seats of CES board be held by people elected from and by those who have performed work for any CES function, including Ohayocon, who are regularly considered to have worked. And notice, you're going to work at other events, but you get to have your input in this event. Notice how like they're just going for everything. This is a seizure. This is an attempted seizure of power from at least 2 years within the last 3 years. Immediate adoption of bylaws to prevent board members from receiving compensation in excess of the value of staff leaders who do not sit on the board. Immediate adoption of a code of conduct, which includes disciplinary rules that apply to all stakeholders, including staff, board members, vendors, exhibitors, attendees, owners, blah, 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 blah. Immediate adoption of bylaws that require the board members to disclose conflicts of interest on at least a semi-annual basis. Well, you don't have to. You're not. No, like, you don't have to do any of this. This is very Bolshevik-y. I told you, chat. Regular reporting to staff leaders of our recognized nonprofit status. Prompt incorporation as a mutual benefit. A mutual benefit, chat. That's one of them words the collectivists like to use. That's a Bolshevik word. That's a Bolshevik word, chat. As a mutual benefit nonprofit corporation or a nonprofit social club. The immediate resignation or removal of Molly Phelps, and notice she's got the same last name as the president, from the board on the grounds of a relationship with her mother, the board president. Prompt revision of the CES mission statement according to edits adopted by a majority vote of staff members. Oh my God. Yeah, suffer, commies. Suffer. Good to see you, by the way. Good to see you. The investiture of executive authority, and that means giving a authority to a duly board-appointed senior leader, such as an executive director, but regardless of the words used in the title, beyond whom board members shall have no authority to instruct, engagement of an independent trained individual dedicated to handling harassment claims during Ohayocon, hiring of a credentialed accountant, controller, HR administrator, an independent conduct compliance officer. Where do they think the money comes for all these people? I'm sure that they have an HR person in mind already for this. They also want an implementation of transparent, thorough, and at least quarterly reporting of finance and generally accepted accounting practices, compliant accounting information. Implementation of appropriate and just compensation for each staff member. Implementation of a robust and inclusive process by which annual budgets are created, approved, and amended with a minimum with that minimum departmental specificity. Inclusion of all time worked at our venues. Notice, at other venues counts towards this one, which that doesn't make any sense. You're working for DildoCon. You're not working for Ohayocon. Why should that count? But they talk about their service quotas, included limiting to load in and load out. They love their loads. Prompt communication of recruitment and personnel information to staff leaders with respects to self-identified demographic information. Oh, yeah, it's just seeping out everywhere, chat. The adoption of a recruitment practice that determines labor allocations based on need rather than arbitrarily chosen numbers. They're doing the thing, chat. They're doing the thing. Adoption of labor policy does not pressure individuals into overtime work or shifts longer than 8 hours. You're volunteers. You can just say, fuck it, I'm done. These are volunteers. They could just say, I quit. Or, nah, ain't doing it. Like, come on. Come on. And they want to provide for accurate and precise recording of time worked. Like, do you want to, like, clock in and clock out for your volunteer job? Like, come on. So they want lodging of staff on site or in a hotel connected to our venues via an indoor passageway and in the same room with the same roommates for the entire duration of their stay. You know what? If they want to be in the same building, I would just rent out like a fucking airplane hangar and be like, get a fucking sleeping bag, motherfucker. Here you go. Reaffirmation of the commitment to provide daily parking accommodations for staff who wish to lodge off-site at home. Clear communication of expectations through established and proper channels with allowance of a reasonable amount of time for planning. Recognition of the right of Ohayocon workers to organize and act in support of their rights and to collectively bargain. CES's outright purchase and ownership of Ohayoucon's brand materials, including logo and mascot, at market value, and prohibition of any individual or different organization from owning Ohayoucon's trademarked logos or any other marks or imagery, which is going to be interesting what they do in response to this. So and they say 24 recorded for a right to an organization to commission and use creative assets from parties unrelated to Robert DeJesus, which, okay, there you go. That looks like some more double dealing. And Studio Capsule, and prompt and genuine satisfaction of these demands. So by that time, the senior leaderships of the Sekai Guild people, and I know if I'm pronouncing it wrong, chat, tell me, they had hacked access to the digital properties and assets of CES, which this is actually really bad. They got a hold of their books, their marketing strategies, their contracts, their vendor guest list. This is kind of like in Mad Men where they steal all the documents. Their public-facing website, which they took down and put this big they put this thing on the website. They stole Ohayoucon's Discord server, the social media accounts on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and others, the email server, the Rifox, the registration and payment processing software vendor, Hootsuite, which applied them with marketing and media communications, and the credentials for all those things. Yes, public status faced. Yes. Sekai means world, you pleb. So shortly after, the American Red Cross informed the CES board that the Ohayoucon logo, which at the time was red, infringed on the Red Cross logo. They took a stab at redesigning it, which the board ultimately rejected in favor of making the logo blue, which the Red Cross blessed. Shortly thereafter, Molly Phelps and this other lady quit the board, leaving only Melissa Phelps and Emily DeJesus, who enlisted a third member to help reorganize. They say at that time, however, Coven took control of the assets listed and refused to turn them over to the board. Yes. In September 2023, Coven met to reject the blue logo approved, and they decided to replace it with the earlier design, which had then published on all the social media sites. So you're like, oh, look, they came up with their own thing. Also, why is this not centered? It should be over here. But Ohayoucon. And you're like, huh. That kind of looks like the thing that they have here. It's SekaiCon. You're like, wait. Like, whoa. How do you do that? How do you do that? That's not fair. It looks like Sekai Guild's thing right here. It looks like their thing. So you're like, well, that makes it hard to say you aren't in charge of all this stuff. Keopathic saying, how do you steal an email server? Because they had people, they gave like one person access. The IT guy was probably in charge of all this shit. And they didn't leave it so like there were special things or like only one, like you needed multiple people to approve changes of things. Although it sounds like their entire staff snaked them. So that's kind of what happened here as part of the problem. But yeah, shit did cross several hands for that to happen. Yes. Yeah, they probably use the same username and password for everything too. Wouldn't surprise me. So not only the board had rejected this red version, but again, it put the convention in the crosshairs of the Red Cross. Yes, the red logo is also known as the Sakura logo. So Phelps then instructed Markham and Reinhardt to remove the red logo from the social media and marketing materials, which they refused to do. Therefore, in September, the board voted to remove Markham as convention director and Reinhardt from the social media and website management. The board also demanded Coven relinquish the assets paid for and owned by CES, including all passwords and login information, which those are business those are business property. That's shit a business owns. A business has the interest in that Facebook page. Like, they can do that. Zero MSS says, as a long-running Ohayoucon attendee who watched these weirdos pull this nonsense from the Discord server, it brings me great mirth to see them finally brought out into the daylight. Well, you're welcome. So they say instead of delivering the property and assets, Coven, God, so cringe, engaged Hightower to disable the convention's website and replace it with the following statement. Melissa Phelps has enacted a hostile takeover. She already runs it. She's in charge. Hightower also removed Phelps and DeJesus from accessing any of the digital property and assets. Hightower also placed two-factor authentication on the ohayocon.org email addresses of Phelps and DeJesus. They fucking boxed him out. They then posted this on the convention social media pages that says Ohayocon is under maintenance. And they talk about the shocking turn of events. Melissa Phelps has initiated a hostile takeover by firing or removing access for a majority of the senior leadership team, which wasn't a real thing. Oh. This is like an anonymous op, but 1,000 times more retarded, yes. And cringe. The senior leadership team at Ohayocon has been an integral part of the success, providing guidance, experience, and dedication to the event's growth and improvement over the years. Their contributions have helped Ohayocon become one of the most beloved and well-attended cons in the region. Yes, because the Ohio River Valley, known for its anime conventions. The abrupt removal of the team has raised concerns among the Ohayocon volunteer community about the future direction of the convention. Many volunteers have voiced their support for the ousted leaders and are calling for transparency and accountability. And they say, we stand with the volunteers of Ohayocon and urge everyone to support the dedicated individuals who have worked tirelessly to make this convention a cherished experience for all attendees. Adam says, this would be better as a green text anyway. Yes. I get that reference. We believe in the values of the community, and we call on Melissa Phelps to address the concerns and questions of the community openly. As this unexpected change unfolds, supporters of Ohayocon are encouraged to voice their concerns, ask questions, and seek clarity. Melissa Phelps and other members of CES and their board have a responsibility to address the concerns and provide reassurance. The convention will continue to prioritize the values and traditions that have made it a beloved annual gathering. Yeah, but they literally just fucking hijacked this shit. Yeah, this is like if you just let all the freaking, a bunch of Zoomers come in and just hijack it. This is just liberal barf on a page. So, as a result, the Phelps and they got received online death threats, which continue to this day. I don't get death threats, and that's the thing. Like, that I mean, people call me fat, okay, but I don't get death threats, chat. Why don't I get death threats? I want death threats. I want people to threaten to want to kill me. Like, what? Why can't I get that? Why can't it be me? Why? Hold on, chat, 1 second. See, the cat's in there with the litter box treat. It's like a fucking one of those things where you're raking the sand or something. She just keeps playing with it. So doxing, and they say that these people have been doxed. It's so horrible. Oh. So doxing involves posting a person's known person's identity and other information online with the intent to intimidate, harass, or cause physical or financial harm. Well, I don't know about that. In October, defendant Rigsby emailed DeJesus a document called the parlay. And guys, parlay means like negotiations. So if you ever watched like Braveheart, where, the king and William Wallace ride out, that's called a parlay. If you've seen in Kingdom of Heaven, when Salahuddin and Baldwin ride out to meet each other, and they have what's called a parlay. They're trying to talk it out before they fight. They had a parlay, which it's like calling it parlay demands. It's like, once again, they're just trying to be fancy here. They're trying to be fancy. Yes, it's pirate code. Oh. Nate saying Barbosa the pirate invented parlay. Yes, but the concept of leaders meeting before the battle is a very common thing. Yes, parlay is what white people do. That's white people talk. So anyways, they issued a document called the Parlay Demands. David, how are you doing, man? How are you doing? Guys at David at MLS, doing the Lego streams and stuff. So, yes, the Parlay Demands for Ohayocon leadership and operations on behalf of Ohayocon senior leadership. And they had demands which as follows. They reinstate the guy they got fired as the chair. They want Cody Markham to be reinstated. His experience has been instrumental. The empowerment of Markham with control over Ohayocon contracts and finances. He has to see full control over contracts. Like, okay. The role of the Cultural Exchange Society. And they say, we propose that it operates as a nonprofit organization governing Ohiocon's legal standing rather than being involved directly with year-to-year planning. And they want the board of directors to discontinue decision-making related to the planning of Ohayocon. They want to reinstate all senior leadership. They want to reinstate everybody who were let go due to Coven's existence and or the implementation of the Sakura logo. So yes, you have to bring back everybody who fucked around and did what they weren't supposed to do. They should be reinstated to the original positions with their full responsibilities. Now, this is like their demand too. We want to use the logo we came up with. And it preserves their best legal interest for Ohayocon. The Red Cross said the other option was fine, so your legal interests are safe. They want a senior leadership team handling PR. The restriction on the CES board members' social media activity as it relates to Ohayocon. They want the board members to quit using the Facebook page and the official Facebook group until otherwise notified. This step maintains clear communication channels and presents a unified message. Yes, notice none of their demands are things they're willing to do. The senior leadership team then posted the demands to the Discord server, which got rejected. Minutes later, the following headline appeared on the gaming website Nerd and Tie. And it says, Ohayocon senior leadership and volunteers on strike after the removal of Con Chair Cody Markham. Yes, in October 6th, Coven said in 2023, they were going on strike. And yes, they did this on Twitter. They 100% did this. And guys, I did use the Nerd and Tie website. It's a guy who has been covering all this. So, and he does stuff here on YouTube too. But yes, they actually did like no shit. There's a bunch of other stuff here too. But like, yes, this literally fucking happened, chat. This literally fucking happened. This is their notice of strike. Yes, the Coven. I mean, like as much like this here. Come on, you guys. Come on. This is just cringe. Cringe. The notice of strike. You put your strike on Twitter. Monster cringe. So on October 8th, more disparaging material appeared about Phelps and DeJesus on YouTube. And then on later October, the senior leadership team sent the board the following email saying, Dear Board of Directors, we hope the second letter for the beginning of the strike finds you well. Senior leadership again would like to offer to negotiate an agreement that would end the strike if approved by both leadership and the Coven. Your previous response, which rejected our demands, has left the Ohayocon community deeply concerned and frustrated. Yes, much concern, chat. Much concern. We believe that comprehensive discussions are now not only required, but absolutely necessary to address the concerns that have shaken the very foundations of Ohayocon. We believe that an open dialogue is essential in resolving the current situation. Our team is prepared to engage in good faith discussions. Oh, yeah, because you've done that so far. Oh, my God. You've totally done that. You've totally done that so far. They want to reach an agreement that benefits all stakeholders, including the attendees, volunteers, and exhibitors, and fosters a positive environment for future conventions. If you're willing to engage in negotiations, please let us know by 10 p.m. tomorrow evening. The time and method of discussion is most convenient for CES. Thank you for your attention to these matters. You guys forgot the space there. And we hope for a resolution that ensures the continued growth and prosperity of Ohayocon. So, say by the end of October, Nerd and Tie, the website we're just looking at, had an article and the article had invited 15 thoughts from readers, which included false, disparaging, and defamatory comments. By the end of November 2023, Coven invited more false, disparaging, and defamatory comments about them because it spread like wildfire on platforms like TikTok. They also received more death threats, and it's like, I never get those. And they say by the time the board regained access to its digital assets, it was too late. CES refused to give in to Coven's demands. It copied, downloaded, and stole all of its digital assets, confidential information, and trade secrets. What Coven was unable to steal, it permanently deleted. Ooh, buddy. That's not a good idea, chat. Don't do that. Coven also stole or destroyed highly valuable physical assets like hundreds of retro tabletop games, arcade games, video game systems, games themselves. Plaintiffs don't know the location of any of these physical assets or whose hands they are in. Plaintiffs also don't know what became of the digital assets that were stolen. They talk about Ohayocon 2024. And they said CES has been unable to regain control of its Instagram and Facebook accounts, which upon information and belief are controlled by Aaron Reinhardt to this day. Nor has CES been able to regain control of its Discord server, which is now controlled by Griffin Vols to this day. And because Coven failed to otherwise wrestle the convention away, it resorted to sabotaging the 2024 convention. And Ohiocon's held in January, towards the end of January, guys. Between October 2023 and January 24, the defendants cooperated, coordinated, conspired jointly and severally, meaning individually, but also as a group, to steal and usurp confidential business information, trade secrets, all the stuff that was out there. Because they couldn't, wait, did I mean, it's almost like, yeah, they basically just restate it the same way again. I just want to make sure I didn't go back through here. The defendants made particular, and they talk about, once again, they made control over the Facebook account and Discord server to communicate false information to the convention's attendees, vendors, guests, and relationships. For example, all the defendants jointly and severally contacted the convention's longtime host in Columbus while claiming to be them to defame and disparage the CES leadership, disrupt the accommodation space, cancel or alter service to interfere with damage that long-established valuable relationship. They also booked hundreds of rooms at the Hyatt, only to cancel them at the last minute, which resulted in immediate losses to the hotel, which CES had to recoup. That's pretty fucking mean. That's pretty fucking mean. Oh no, chat. The defendants further directed attendees to book their stays at competing hotels, which resulted in losses to both Hyatt and CES. The defendants discouraged artists and other celebrities from participating in 24, irreparably damaging those long-time relationships, which irreparably harmed the convention's reputation as a serious and reputable con that people should spend their hard-earned money attending. And they say because of the conduct, the 2024 convention recorded only 4,000 attendees. Ooh, buddy. Resulting in a massive economic loss. CS lost its convention site for the 2025 convention. Most of the vendors canceled their participation, and most of the convention's volunteer staff quit. Well, yeah. So what follows a small sample from the chaos Coven sowed by stealing the Discord server. So I don't see how this one here specifically says something, but that's because I run that. All the stuff that usually goes on the table and around the table is still in my garage. So this is Aaron from Ohayocon, saying like, I have all my shit. Once again, guys, do not admit to doing shit on the internet. Discord is for fucking ever, and people will hoover that shit up. You know, don't take notes on a criminal conspiracy.
Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? What the fuck is you thinking, man?
I don't know. What the fuck is you thinking? What the fuck is you thinking? So. Hella says, make the font more fonty. Thanks, Hella. Guys, Hella, hearsay for days. Excited utterance. Yes. Thank you for being here, Hella. Oh. More of the things here. So Cody, the strike director. That's such a fucking... the individuals who staffed the Ohio booth were primarily members of senior leadership. CES members don't go to cons not named Ohio. Okay, so the Cultural Exchange Society, who runs Ohayocon, yeah, why would they go to other cons? They have a con. Like, yes, how dare they not go to the other weeb things? No! This is just so ridiculous. This is so ridiculous. They have other people saying, like, more like retired. The ones who don't attend, many have already paid. If they don't attend, we promote their online store in Discord. But they go through all this. There's just more and more things here. Yeah, Cody, former con director. Like, you can tell these people who they are. They're like, they have their names out, which is so fucking stupid. And Sarah, this lady here says the Discord was never hers to begin with, that she didn't create it. It's owned by CES. It's not owned by the people who, like, the employees. The Facebook pages were never hers. The website is her own damned fucking autocorrect at 6 a.m. fault. Yeah, so notice they're admitting like it's her fault she didn't protect it. It's like, that doesn't work. Any Google Docs were never hers that she didn't create them. There's a trend here. Yes, there's a trend here. You created things for Ohayocon, so it's Ohayocon shit. Wow. But yeah, they just go on and on and on, chat. They, you know, also Ohayocon is just this weekend. Notice they're using the thing here. Yeah. Anderson Cooper says, that's not how any of this works. Yes. Yes. There's more of it here, yes. So notice, they say, yeah, we're going to do a new show. Senior leadership is meeting a lot to set it up. We're actually going to repurpose the server for something exciting and new. This server has nothing to do with Ohayocon anymore. That you can't do that. That's not how this works. Notice, though, this one, Sarah Darsh Seymour. Like, you are fucking derpy as shit, sweetheart. You know, it's not that she hasn't tried resetting in the password info. It's that she literally doesn't know how and refuses to learn. That's why she needs staff, because she's technologically illiterate. And no, that's no excuse. So you're admitting you shouldn't have done this. That's just another point against her, because honestly, after 20 plus years of running conventions, she should know how to do this shit on her own. This is an admission. You know that nobody has the right to do this. Ray Steiner says all she has to do to get the Facebook staff back is ask for it. But I don't think she knows who has control of it. That's another admission. Heschick saying, I'm clueless, but not how this works. Yes. Oh my God, you guys. More, she has not a single clue has control over it. I know who created the group for her, though. I know who has control. Oh, wow. That's how you get a deposition. That's how you get a deposition. So Coven also created a Facebook group called Ohayocon Dumpster Fire that I used to attack the convention. And, you know, somebody says, I'm staying at the Hyatt for work, showing my out-of-town work bestie around my stomping grounds from 20 years. It was just here a few months ago for MatsuriCon, even. Wait, I thought, like, isn't MatsuriCon like anime Matsuri? Is that a different thing? I don't know. Con people, the weebs out there, tell me. David is saying, just tune in. Are these guys trying to steal the convention based on Nick Rekieta's shouldn't have left the computer logged in logic? Yes, exactly. Yes. They're like, if you should have protected it. Except you were workers for the organization. So the organization had given them the authority to use it, and then they stole it. So yes. So, it's a different thing. Okay. The problem is there's only a handful of Japanese words that all cons use. Yes. Okay. Okay. That's a thing there. Thank you. And we got to chatting with the high employees, all too eager to gossip about how Ohayocon owes everyone so much money. Oh, that's definitely a Midwest person going, oh, even typing it out. So they also include this comment here, which it's infuriating to read because they chopped it out. You know, these are people bashing Melissa, the head of it, saying, I got a lobotomy at Claire's. That's so funny. This is just more and more comments from here. These people are out here. And I do like this comment this guy had. Ohayocon out here creating a record for cons created despite them. Yeah, and it just, all these people are just, this is all, guys, all this shit gets saved. People screenshot it and download it. It's like people were, as these things were happening, these people were up there using Snagit or whatever it is and just going loop or just print screen, print screen, print screen, print screen. Happens all the time, you guys. You have to be careful about what you're doing. You have to be careful. If you're gonna do shit, don't document it. They also point out the defendants have usurped the Ohayocon logo to cause confusion and encourage attendees and relationships not to associate with the plaintiffs. And yes, look, this is an appropriation of the logo because it does create confusion. You're kind of like kit bashing the logos. That would be a thing. Keopatha says Windows 7 and beyond is a snip tool. Yeah, but 2.0 uses Snagit, and she turned me onto it. It's actually so good because you can use it so many different ways. I like Snagit a lot more. They used look, and it's in the art that's going on. Like, yeah, this is... But anyway, so they talk about the losses here. Plaintiffs lost $144,000 in 2024. The president is personally $10,000 out of pocket. For the convention to proceed at all in 2025, DeJesus extended a loan to CES in excess of $90,000. So these people are not poor, chat. But they have enough money, they scrounged up 90 G's. And she's doing it at 13% interest. 13% interest is, I think you can make an argument that's usury in Ohio. 8% is generally the maximum you could charge unless you have an exemption as a financial institution. 13%, man. Think the fucking juice is running. The fucking juice is running, chat. 13 points. Like, that is fucking rough, you guys. Oh, buddy. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, George Foreman did die. Oh, no. That's sad. Oh, no. Bummer. I always thought he was older than that, too. F's in the chats for George Foreman, chat. Kia says, what the fuck is that interest rate? Yeah. At 13%, you'll make 15% of the profit. Yes. Oh, yes. They're going to bury him in George Foreman in a casket shaped like the grill. Yes. Oh. But yes, chat. Yes, 13% interest. God, that's like loan sharking. That is like loan sharking. That is, and I saw this earlier, and I'm like, I had to double check in the Ohio Revised Code usury. Like, 8% is the acceptable amount. Once you're higher than that, that does become like, you can make an argument that's usury if there was any legal proceedings. Like, this is unconscionable. And that is a very real concern. Oh. So it's just, this is bad. Oh, a bank can't charge more than 8% on a loan, Ohio. They can. They can. You can charge more, but 8% is otherwise what the maximum you can charge. But that's why all the financial organizations have their own exemptions. So, but yeah, 13% interest. Holy shit. Holy shit, guys. That means every year, like after the first year, if they don't pay anything back right away, it's like 13% interest. You know, that's a lot of fucking money popping back out there. It's like $9,000 tacked on every time. Oh. Yes, payday loan lenders still fuck you, yeah. Like I said, financial institutions can do whatever they want. So Ohayocon 2025 will take place between January 31st and February 2nd. It did. And I watched a video or two from people who went, and they're like, it was kind of flat, but they're kind of fucked right now. So Ohayocon used the phone. This is their logo right now. This has been approved. The Red Cross has said we're cool with this because there's no confusion. I said, Amateur Iconoclast says yes. I can't charge like that, but you know who can? Yes. So yes, that's the thing. And if you guys didn't know, yeah, there's so here is the thing real quick, guys, if you didn't know, it's the maximum rate of interest you can do in Ohio. So if you're a party to a bond, bill, promissory note, or other instrument in writing for the forbearance of payment or money at any future time, you can stipulate the payment of interest, the amount thereof not exceeding 8% per annum, payable annually. Now, you can agree to exceed it if there's things there, including the principal indebtedness amount exceeds $100,000. Well, that didn't happen here. Your payment is to a broker or dealer registered under the Securities and Exchange Act. Like there's other things you can do here. Your instruments evidence is a loan secured by a mortgage or deed of trust on real estate. You can do this for all kinds of other things here. You can do the instrument is payable on demand or one installment is not secured by household furnishings or goods. You can do it for a bunch of different ways. There's all these exceptions. But yes, 8% unless you have an exception. Like, it's kind of sketchy. It's kind of sketchy here. How the fuck would Red Cross have a say over a basic fucking symbol? Because they copyrighted it. But think about it. If this thing was red, I mean, I'm serious. Like, let's change this up a bit. Let's change this up a bit. Let's do this. Like, they had concerns because, like, you know, like this can create, like, if this is all red, you know, this, like, if that's this and this is red, like, would a Pearson have a reasonable belief that this is some sort of medical thing? Yes. Or it's the Swiss government. I don't know. But people would think so. Yeah, well, I'm infringing on copyright live, chat. Yes. Oh. So there's a lot of issues with this. So they have the right to, like, you know, and it's also the Red Cross can do it because they're fucking the Red Cross and they have money they can afford to burn and go after people for. So that's why the Red Cross can do it. But yeah, you have to protect your logo. You have to protect your brand. So at the filing of this verified complaint, there were only 300 registered attendees for the 2025 convention. There's an estimate that fewer than 7,000 will show up. Ooh, man, their attendance is cut in half, dude. They are fucking boned. Like, they are just getting own dizzled. They'll lose $133,000 this year. So, they're not the Red Cross. It's more trademark than copyright, yeah, but... So, anyway, Sekai Guild purports to be a not-for-profit company created by Cody Markham in March of 2024. According to the articles of organization, it was formed to promote cross-cultural understanding. Like, I love it. Just say you want to watch anime. They're inclusive spaces that celebrate, educate, and inspire a sense of global citizenship. Josh, Meme Copium, if you're out there, are there like America cons where people just like walk around and it's all about America? Like, do they do that in Asia? They call it Howdy Con. Or Hillbilly Con or something, I don't know. Oh. Yes, these people basically destroyed a convention. They literally fucking destroyed it. Yes, use the Azov Black Sun, yes. Yes, Japan has its all kinds of LARPs. Cowboys, Colonel Sanders. Yeah, I know they do. I would go to HowdyCon. Yes. Yes. Welcome to HowdyCon. Howdy, 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 howdy. Oh, they love Frank Sinatra in Japan. Yes, they do. That is so fucking weird. It is so weird. Zero MSS, who's been to a bunch. He said, my first Ohayocon was 2004, and 2025 is the smallest I've ever seen attendance. They got hit hard by the venue change. Yeah, they got hit hard by that. They got hit hard. Like, this whole thing fucked them up. And yeah, moving across the state, I mean, it's over an hour. It's almost an hour, like an hour away. They moved over an hour away. So it doesn't help. It doesn't help. So thank you for the input. I appreciate it. Feel free to chime in whenever. I'm curious to hear your take on things. So they should hold it at the place with the Arnold statue, the convention center in Columbus, where they did the Arnold Classic. Yeah. They also talk about inspiring a sense of global citizenship. Just say you want to watch anime, you guys. Just say you want to watch anime. Nobody's going to fault you. Like, we might laugh at you, but everybody's going to be like, okay. Just say what you mean to say. The Sekai Guild is merely the former convention leaders, senior leadership, and the members of the Coven rebranded. So, according to Sekai Guild, it is owned by nobody and receives funding from membership fees and donations. Well, it's incorporated. It's articles of organization. It's an incorporation. To be a not-for-profit, you are incorporated. So somebody owns it. Its members vote. Like, this is like a very, it's a co-op, man. You can't own land, man. They vote to elect directors from among the leadership as a whole. Its members can earn voting privileges by volunteering on its behalf, paying dues, attending meetings. It has no ties to other groups' events, past or present. Well, that doesn't sound true. That sounds like a lie. So in April 2024, Sekai Guild announced on its website it would hold its first anime day at the mall in Beaver Creek, Ohio. If the good people of Beaver Creek, Ohio learned what was happening to their community, they would be very mad. Beaver Creek is a suburb of Dayton. It's it's still pretty white. But yes, they're not going into the heart of Dayton here. So, Sekai Guild billed the event as a celebration of anime, cosplay, and more. On August 28th, they announced the website would hold SekaiCon between April 11th, 25th, 2025, and April 13th. at the Cherry Valley Hotel in Newark, Ohio. So you guys can go. You guys could go see the Great Serpent Mound. That's right, chat. You could come see a big pile of dirt some Indians made 10,000 years ago that looks like a big snake. And you can see the old Hopewell roads that are there. They say Sekai Guild markets and promotes itself using the following logo. Yes, this is their logo. Says, according to their website, SekaiCon 2025 is a celebration of anime fandom with panels, costumes, voice actors, vendors, a dance competition, live performances, and a gaming tournament. They regularly steal the marketing strategies of CES. CES markets Ohayocon by promoting collectible ribbons related to various aspects of the convention. No, I'm assuming this is actually common in a lot of cons. You could do like ribbon collecting and shit. I think this is like an actual thing here. So I'm assuming this is not unique. But yeah, you can collect your ribbons where you went to stuff. Yeah, Cacophony says it's very common. So I think that's going to hurt them. Like, we're doing other stuff. You guys, it's a Chomo logo. Hella, you don't like that font? Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's kind of compressed. I feel like it should be like expansive. It's Pokemon such FOMO stuff to do a lot of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Erica says, can you give memberships on mobile? I don't know if you can or not. Yes. Who does not want to wear the ribbons? Yeah. You get this ribbon for destroying four panzers. You get this ribbon for getting wounded so many times. Yeah. You get this ribbon for defense of the fatherland. Yeah. Oh. But yes, Ohayocon ribbon collecting, yes, is a group. And they say shortly after making this announcement, defendants announced as follows on Facebook, creating the impression in the mind of the public that SekaiCon is associated with Ohayocon. And they say ribbons are coming to more and more conventions all throughout Ohio. So this part here, I don't know how you could say this if ribbons are everywhere, but okay. More Ohayocon conventions with ribbons are Colossal Con. I've never heard of that. MatsuriCon. Okay. And it's a group about bringing the tradition of badge ribbons to Ohayocon. Yeah, somebody kind of stepped on their penis there if you're trying to hide what you're doing. Yes. Yes, I have the Siphon badge with oak leaves, yeah. I have the Eisenkreuz with crossed swords and oak leaves and diamonds, yeah. Oh. So, cause of action. Piercing the corporate veil of Sekai Guild. Now, this is the thing, guys. Piercing the corporate veil is a thing where you can pierce the corporate shield. And you can go after the people involved in an organization without them being able to hide behind the corporate identity. You're basically taking away their shield. So, they say they say here that for all practical purposes, the same persons named as defendants are all the people involved. So they say that based on their collective behavior as volunteers before and after the dismissal, and indeed their express intention to act as collectively as expressed in their manifesto, they say upon information belief, they control Sekai Guild such that it has no corporate will of its own. For the same reason, defendants form Sekai Guild for not any legitimate charitable purpose. Well, is there really a nonprofit purpose for Ohayocon? Like, I mean, like, I'm just gonna say, like, I don't think you're gonna be able to get away with that. Like, they say this part though is true. It's been done to commit unlawful, tortious, and fraudulent acts against the plaintiffs, causing injury. Therefore, none of them are entitled to hide behind the corporate veil of Sekai Guild. And that's the thing. If you can hide behind the organization, you can't be held liable. But if you pierce the corporate veil and just go with your fist right through it, you do that 1-inch punch and you go, pow! Some Jet Li power there. That straight blast. That is now you're liable. So they talk about count 1. They want to seek an injunction. So they want trade secrets to be protected. They want to protect all the stuff here. And they talk about trade secrets that are derived independent economic value, not from being generally known and not being readily ascertainable by proper means of other people who can obtain the value from it. And it's subject of efforts that are reasonable under circumstances to maintain secrecy. They talk about misappropriation here. The acquisition of a trade secret when you have reason to know it was acquired by improper means. Disclosing trade secrets to another if you used improper means to acquire the knowledge, or at the time of disclosure, you knew or had reason to know the knowledge that you shouldn't have had this. And you could also say before material change in their position, you knew or had reason to know that it was a trade secret and knowledge of it had been acquired by accident or mistake. So they say as a result of this, remember, jointly and severally, meaning individually and collectively, they use the trade secrets to unfairly compete and harm the plaintiffs. They talk about under this that their joint and unlawful conduct may be enjoined for as long as necessary to secure the plaintiff's rights. So you can have an injunction going for a long time with trade secrets. They're also entitled to an order compelling a joint and severally for affirmative action to protect information and for royalties, as long as it takes to reclaim their trade secrets. And this is the case because as a board member, one of the guys had unique access to the books, records, and intellectual assets. And unbeknownst to everybody, he was coordinating with the other side to steal the information to benefit themselves. And they say since then, they've had the opportunity to sell the trade secrets to anybody. This action is also unique in that conventions like Ohayocon take place in one location for 3 days once per year. They therefore have one chance per year to get enough revenue for the next year. And their ability to recover from that is severely limited. And they have no opportunity to do so. So they say, in short, they can't get back up on the horse the next day, week, or month to recover. They have to put all their resources into the next 3-day convention a year later. Michael Gilkey saying it's probably a nonprofit for the leadership structure. I understand that, but they act like there's a charitable thing here. It's like, well, nobody's actually running a charity. This is all done for tax purposes. And they say because of this, it may be impossible for plans to recover any of these secrets. And if they do, it may be impossible to put that information to use a year from now. The value of the information is impossible to put a value on. Well, that becomes a problem when you're looking for damages. Such damages are impossible to calculate at trial. That's never a good thing to admit, Your Honor. We can't calculate damages. It's like, why would you admit that? We don't know how much money we've actually lost. We can't ever figure it out. Well, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea here. So they say without limitation, they demonstrate considerable likelihood of prevailing on the merits of their claims. Now, somewhere you talk about the injunction things here. So remember, do you have the injunction elements? There's 4 elements. Are you likelihood to succeed? Are you going to suffer irreparable harm? Is this the equitable interest? And is it against public policy? Well, you will suffer irreparable harm because you will permanently lose control of your commercial advantage, although you've already probably lost it. No third parties will suffer any harm. If defendants could demonstrate harm to third parties, it would be brief. They talk about how hotels and bars have hundreds of opportunities every day to draw customers. The court grants the relief. It will promote the public interest. It's not against public policy. It protects commercial activity by doing this. And the public can trust that they can travel. Like, this part's funny. The public can trust and be secure in the fact they can travel to and pay for commercial events, spend money and the like, and such economic activity will benefit the public as a whole. Nobody gives a shit about that. I go spend my money because it benefits me. The corporate organization statutes of the state of Ohio are enforced respected. and that innovation and commercial activity will be free from theft, misappropriation, and unfair competition. So the value of the secrets was derived from the plaintiff's skill, efforts, reputation, knowledge, experience, and background earned over many years. And it was stolen by a board member trusted to help organize a popular convention. They say as a direct and proximate result of this, plaintiffs have suffered damages in excess of the jurisdictional threshold of this court to be determined by the trier of fact. Remember, the jurisdictional threshold is in excess of $15,000. So they say count 2, the unauthorized use and theft of property. 2913.04 is a criminal statute, chat. Is a criminal statute. It's called unauthorized use of property. In the criminal circles, like if you're in court and stuff like that, you'll call it, you'll call it unauthorized use or UUP, unauthorized use of property. So it's like when you borrow someone's car and then somebody else borrows the car. When it turns out, okay, yes, my car didn't end up being stolen, but Bob let Steve borrow it. And you don't want Steve to get prosecuted for a felony because stealing a car is a felony, but receiving or unauthorized use of property is a misdemeanor, which, you know what, Steve still pays, but it's only a misdemeanor versus a felony. So. Muriel is saying, do they have to be convicted in order to be liable to be sued? No. You're going to see why they're bringing it up, though. And we're seeing this more and more of these things getting invoked in a lawsuit. So they talk about our 2913.04. No person shall knowingly use or operate the property of another without consent or the person authorized to give consent. And under 2913.04, it says no person in any manner by any means, including but not limited to computer hacking, shall knowingly gain access, attempt to gain access, or cause access to be gained to any computer or information system without the consent or beyond the scope of the express or implied consent of the owner of the computers and computer systems or other person authorized to give consent. And they say, by illegally using, operating, and stealing the intellectual property of all of this, they basically accessed and hacked the computer systems. And it was done in a manner which the plaintiffs did not consent to and is beyond the scope. Now, there's no private right of action in the statute, so I'd be challenging that if I was the defendants. They say on more than one occasion, the plaintiffs demanded return of their property. And then now here, because it's stolen, they're entitled to pursue damages, liquidated damages, and treble damages against the defendants. And they say the plaintiffs have exceeded the jurisdictional amount. Count 3 is tortious interference with a contract or prospective business relationships. So they talk about how they fucked with all the contractors and vendors, especially the Hyatt Convention Center that they were using. Clyde's dragging his butt on cyber trucks. So they talk about all of this, the event, and they say the prospective business relationships with during the same time frame. Yes, because it contemplates future activity as well here. And they say at all times the defendants jointly and severally knew about the contracts and agreements and every year that were going on, and they fucked with them. So they interfered with the relationships and procured their breaches. So they talk about how much damage, and they suffered damage in excess of the jurisdictional amount. Count 4 is breach of fiduciary duty by Hightower. Remember the guy, Cody, the one guy who left. So as of in July and 22 and February 23, he was an elected board member, officer, director, and trustee or employee of CES. And that means he had a fiduciary duty at all times relevant to this complaint. He was obliged to serve CES in good faith in a manner a reasonable person believe isn't harmful to CES, and with the care an ordinary person in the same or similar position would use under similar circumstances at all times relevant to the complaint. And this is true. This is how you're doing it. So they talk about here, he shall not be considered to be acting in good faith if he knows CES would rely on their information or statements. And as described in this complaint, he breached the duty by covertly working with the coven and the senior leadership to make Sekai Guild and compete with it. They may pursue him individually for his own torts and wrongdoing, and he doesn't get to hide behind his status as an officer, director, or employee of CES, meaning he can't rely on the corporate liability. He can be liable for damages for any act or omission taken by him in connection with his duties. And, upon clear and convincing evidence that he deliberately intentionally meant to harm it, or that he undertook it with a reckless disregard for the interests. So, yes, his knowing, deliberate, and intentional breaches of fiduciary duties led CES to suffer damages. There's defamation by all defendants. Everybody's been defamed. That the plaintiffs are union busters. That plaintiffs are thieves and crooks. The plaintiffs are tax cheats. Well, you guys are tax cheats too. Plaintiffs cheat their vendors, artists, guests, volunteers, staff, and hosts. These statements are defamatory because the customer base tends to find such alleged conduct abhorrent. So they encourage others to make similar statements on social media sites owned by CES, and they've done it. And this was done with actual malice because they're worried, and they're going to the route of already these people who were defamed, Phelps and DeJesus, are public figures. It was done with actual malice. They knew their statements to be false or defamatory and made, or they were with reckless disregard. So they're already on to taking advantage of the New York Times versus Sullivan standard, which makes it harder because you have to add that actual malice standard. Some of these were defamatory per se, and they caused special harm and damages. And they say there's no public participation value to the false and defamatory statements about plaintiffs without limitation because they weren't in the context of a legislative, executive, judicial, or other governmental proceeding. They weren't under consideration in a legislative administrative review. And they don't implicate the rights of freedom of speech and of the press and the right to assemble. Now, why is this important here, chat? This little bit, paragraph 128, that is heading off to pass something big Ohio has passed that goes into effect here in April. And Ohio has anti-SLAPP. Ohio has an anti-SLAPP law coming into effect. And Ohio's anti-SLAPP law is the Uniform Public Expression Protection Act, or UPIA. Now, it's actually pretty good. You could say it slaps, as the kids would say. But what this does, it allows you to take advantage of anti-SLAPP in Ohio. So if you get sued, you can claim this is a lawsuit meant to be against public participation, and you can get things tossed. All right. It's an actual thing here. Where is... Hold on here, chat. Where is... Okay, hold on here, chat. I had to find the thing. All right. So this is what they're talking about here. It's the application of the Uniform Protection and Public Expression and Protection Act definitions. So it talks about all the organizations here, and it talks about, except as following, this chapter applies to a cause of action asserted in a civil case against a person based on any of the following. And they talk about, here are the exemptions. Here's how you protect yourself with anti-SLAPP. The person's communication was in a legislative, executive, judicial, administrative, or governmental proceeding. The communications on an issue were under consideration, review in a legislative, judicial, administrative, or governmental action. And the person's exercise of the right to freedom of speech and of the press, the right to assemble and petition, and the right of association are not being affected. This is how you protect yourself. This is how you protect yourself as far as things go. This is how you use the statute to do what you need to do here. This thing, it just talks about how it works. It's actually pretty strong. It's not as strong as like Texas, but it's stronger in a lot of other states, and it's going into effect soon. So let me see here. Where are we going? We're going back to this. So that's why they talk about all of that. This is all anti-slap stuff. So this entire paragraph here, paragraph 120, is anti-slap stuff. They also talk about count 6, the false light by all defendants. So publicity was given before them and a public and a false light. And they say the false light in which plaintiffs were placed in would be highly offensive to a reasonable person. They say because the defendants were accused of theft, tax evasion, labor and employment abuse, deception of customers, vendors, guests, volunteers. And they say, for example, the statements captured from the online interactions shown above demonstrate the defendants went out of their way to mislead and deceive the public about the plaintiffs and their reputations, intending to hurt them. They say at all times relevant, the defendants knew or acted in reckless disregard as to the falsity of the material they publicized. And then they move on to wrongful intrusion, count 7, by the defendants jointly and severally. So they talk about this here, the one woman and her family concerning her private life by doxing her. Such publication would be highly offensive and objectionable to a reasonable person of ordinary sensibilities. There's no legitimate concern to the public. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. So anyway, their prayer for relief. They want to do a lot of things here. They want to pierce the corporate veil. They want compensatory damages, equitable relief, statutory damages, liquidated and treble damages. They want compensatory damages, pre- and post-judgment interest, an injunction, reimbursement of attorney's fees. I understand why this wasn't bullet pointed out or numbered. That's normally how you do it. And all of the relief from the court, and this is from January 16th there. And this is actually pretty good overall. I think there's some things I would attack if I was the defendant. But yeah, this shit, like, it's real. Like, there's a lot of stuff at stake. There's a lot of stuff at stake here. Now, what happened very shortly afterwards, there was a temporary restraining order that was granted. So the court held a hearing about all this. There were some parties present, but not everybody was. So what ended up happening? Well, the court ordered that for the defendants to cease all activity on the website and the Facebook, Instagram, Discord, Hootsuite, and RegFox accounts in the names of the Cultural Exchange Society and or Ohayocon, which had been in the names of CES or Ohayocon. So they'll take affirmative action to return the exclusive use, ownership, and control of all information necessary in submission for plaintiffs to log into, secure, and access the website, identified as all the media accounts within this order within 12 hours of the bond being posted, including resetting any two-factor authentication on those accounts to be directed to Phelps' old phone number and email. They shall cease immediately, directly and indirectly, using any material or data, including the financial records of CES or Ohayocon, their marketing strategies, and they talk about anything else they use there. They talk about the whole or any portion of information or documents from the CES or Ohayocon Google Drive. The judge shut them down. Like, you can't use any of the shit. Cease and appropriate of identifying information associated with Ohayocon in any capacity. And they shall preserve all electronically stored information in their possession and custody relating to CES and Ohayocon. Now, the defendants have to set a bond of $1,000. If it turns out they violate it, they lose their money. But it's meant to keep them in their mindful place. Now, like, here's the thing. Like, these people overall generally probably aren't going to have much money. So that's why the bond's tough. $1,000 is tough for these people. So this temporary restraining order shall remain in effect for full force for 14 days until Valentine's Day at 5 p.m. And the court said it's going to hold a hearing, an injunction hearing, on February 10th. This was signed by the judge down in Cincinnati. And things moved on from there, you guys. This case, it had its twists and turns. So, in the meantime, the defendants they all got attorneys. Their attorneys were getting involved. Things drug on for a little bit. But what happened is, they ended up with a proposed order. They've all agreed to a joint order to try to resolve all these issues regarding who has control to what for now and how these things are going and who's operating what. So there was an agreed order. They all agreed to it. They have an agreed order they came up with. And before the court, they talk about all the parties involved. You see that the plaintiffs are listed in this first paragraph. Then you also see the plaintiffs. Then you also see collectively defendants. So they say the defendants shall cease all activity on the website, Facebook, Instagram, and all other social media accounts for CES and Ohayocon. And they stop with, oh, who's messaging me? Hold on, chat. So they talk about this includes without limitation date, and this is where they're making sure there's no Reddit excuses. But it's all their sensitive information from the Google Drive, Google Workspace, the Hootsuite account, the RegFox account. And they say nothing in this order prevents defendants from using the information obtained or wholly or owned independent from them. For example, if they have other stuff in their personal or corporate capacities to market or operate a competing convention, they could do that. They just can't use the shit from Ohayocon. They agree to cease the use and appropriation of things with the Ohayocon logo and the trademarks and the other marks that are owned by it. And they'll preserve all electronically stored information, physical property, intellectual property, and trade secrets. And applicable law, email, text, in IMs, direct messages, social media messages, and everything in their possession, custody, and control, relating to CES and Ohayocon, Sekai Guild, SekaiCon, and the subject matter of the civil action. So they're agreeing to a preservation. They also agree to not make any statements that defame, disparage, or otherwise harm the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs shall not make any statements. And the defendants can organize, market, and operate their own conventions so long as they abide by the obligations here. They're authorized to continue working for convention operating organizations so long as they abide by this order. The order will remain in effect through the course of the litigation. This order supersedes the TRO in this case. And the parties agree this order doesn't constitute a decision on the merits or a waiver of rights or otherwise available to them under the rules of the civil rules, the rules of evidence, and otherwise at equity and law. Now, what does this mean, chat? That means they're acknowledging this has no bearing on the case as far as liability or any other things. You're not waiving any rights. We're just agreeing to basic ground rules to make things so we're not stuck with 35,000 orders to show cause because one side's breaking the rules or not. Now, they did respond here, guys, and the responses were pretty basic. It's very much like the Destiny response, and we're going to kind of chug through this because there's not a whole lot to it. A lot of it, they deny paragraph 1, they deny 2. They talk about paragraph 3 being a legal conclusion. We talk about this. You can admit or deny. You can admit or deny in part or partially. You could do a lot of things. It's no problem with it. Let me see. What are you guys talking about? So they deny. They admit paragraph 9. Like they talk about all the things here. One of the guys says he's domiciled in California and states he's not subject to the jurisdiction of this court. He might be. But that's where you're going to have to do like a Rule 12. And we guys in Ohio, we basically mirror the federal rules of civil procedure. So he's going to have to do a 12B2 motion where he's going to challenge personal jurisdiction in the court. But you notice they omit a bunch of paragraphs. They keep going here. They talk about the facts. Then they incorporate all this, or they deny. They talk about admitting involvement, being involved in things here. They talk about, admitting a bunch of this as it goes on and on and on. They talk about how they do this. And look, they're mainly denying everything. And that's okay. You're allowed to deny. You're allowed to deny. You're allowed to deny. You're allowed to deny. And you go to denies. Now, here's their affirmative defenses. You fail to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. You're barred by the failure to name a necessary party. And they don't know if you have or haven't yet, but they're just saying that you assert all your affirmative defenses. You're barred by latches. You took too long. Estoppel. You consented to this. You let it happen. There's consent and or waiver. You're barred by the statute of limitations. You're barred by the failure to mitigate damages. You're barred because you don't have proper jurisdiction over the parties. Res judicata. This has already been decided. Or collateral estoppel. Those are other options you have out there to say we are not, you do not get the right to relitigate this matter. Once the courts have already decided on something, it's done. It's been decided. You're shit out of luck. You have not been harmed. No damages. It's your own conduct. Dirty, unclean hands. You're barred by the doctrines of set-off, meaning you harmed us, we harmed you. So that's how it works there. Plaintiffs, the plaintiffs have unclean hands. And then you also reserve the right to assert additional affirmative defenses that arise based on facts covered during the course of litigation. I was always taught to include this one because you never know what's going on there. Yeah, so that's what you do there. I always was taught to include this, so I always include that. Even if a court's going to allow it, you always put everything in. What are you guys saying here? What's like telling the court out of order? They're not asking for attorney's fees. Well, they have their own counterclaim, though. So they have a counterclaim, chat, and that's where it gets a little different. They have a counterclaim. They're like, once again, they're pulling the Ethan Ralph. They're going, no, it is you who is in trouble. So they go after the plaintiffs in this. And they say this is a case where they perform labor, but we're not paid for it. They say this is the addition has been for the sole purpose of intimidating a competing enterprise without legal basis. So they talk about the failure to compensate. Well, yeah, I don't think that's going to work here. While this convention started modestly, it eventually grew in excess of 10,000 people. And they talk about that. And they say what started as a labor of love quickly grew into a profit-generating machine. Yes, that's how this works. And by 2023, CES was the sole means of income for the plaintiff. Well, okay, so what? So the fuck what? So the fuck what? So the fuck what? She's allowed to. The convention generated substantial revenue for the plaintiff, Emily DeJesus, by providing her exclusive and lucrative license agreements, which sell artwork. Okay, and sorry, Tovarish. Sorry, comrades, we did that. Due to the growth, plaintiffs failed to pay their workers. Oh, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. Now, admittedly, the defendants may have started as volunteers when they were only working minimal hours. However, as the intensive labor and hours began to grow, the defendants no longer consider their positions volunteer. You can quit. You can always quit. You don't have to be there. Nobody's standing there with a fucking gun telling you what to do. You can always quit. Yes. And it really is a no you argument. Oh. So they talk about it more. Some of the tasks and the volunteers at CES were performing volunteer tasks and were amenable being deemed volunteers. However, individual defendants as time went on consider themselves staff, not volunteers. It doesn't matter. It's like The Rock. It doesn't matter what you think. Jabronis. Yes, I can't quit. I'll sue. This is like slavery. No! Oh no, heckin' Redditarinos. So the individual defendants performed labor-intensive and technical tasks. That's your fucking fault. You don't have to do it. Providing IT support, organizing vendors, managing payments, recruiting attendees, managing volunteers, booking accommodations, otherwise keeping the gears of a 10,000 plus attendee conference turning. Most of the individual defendants were referred to as senior staff. Sounds like it's a self-gloss, and self-gloss is cringe. Despite performing clearly compensable tasks, will you agree not to be compensed, even being referred to as senior staff? The individual defendants were never properly paid for their labor. Womp, 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 womp. So for the individual defendants, unlike conventional volunteers, the weekly hours dedicated to planning the CES convention could, in the week before and of the convention, exceed 60 hours. Notice, so it's a 2-week time span where you're working your ass off. How long are you working throughout the year? Not really hard. It was common for the defendants to dedicate dozens of hours to the convention, even in non-peak times. Yes! Imagine that. You might be a Janny on a Discord for free. Or you're a Janny in chat for free. Oh. Yes, Robin Hood says, I'm going to be real with you. 99% of this and every other convention drama is someone getting cucked, greedy, falling out, and trying to maintain a public image when it's about something private they share in public. Oh, I'm sure we're going to learn about all the cucking and swinging at some point. I'm sure that's happening. Robin Hood's no, you can't tell everyone Susie's a homewrecker. And no, you can't tell everyone the Radisson hates your clients. And yeah, they do. They do it for free, Nibba. Yes. Imagine if these guys were Reddit mods. Well, yeah. Imagine being a Discord Janny. Well, that too. Oh. Yeah, no lie. Lots of drama and sex problems happen in convention hotels. Yeah. Yes. All kinds of conventions. Even a convention for people who sell windshield wipers or snow scrapers. Conventions of all kinds, freaky shit happens. Yes, Jordan is right. You put your Jannies out on the blade and make them earn for you. Very true. WiperCon, yes. Yes. The Baldo convention, BaldoCon. Even model train conventions. That's where I met 2.0. No, that is not. No! That is not true. This is a lie. This is slander. This is defamation. It's not true. God damn you, chat. That's not true. Right, babe? Oh, God, she's sleeping. Damn it. I doth protest too much. Whatever. So in 2023, the individual defendants collectively, they estimate they spent no less than 1,000 hours planning the convention. I'm totally fucking sure they did. So, while some individual defendants were issued a 1099 for their services in trivial payment, never exceeding $1,400 in a given year, so they were paid at different points. They were compensated. You just want more money, you greedy little piggies. The defendants were never properly compensated for their work. Oh, it sounds like they were compensated. They say specifically the economic reality of the defendants was that they were employees, really. A high degree of permanency between the defendants with some provisions of services extending 10 years. The individual defendants had no opportunity for increased profit. The plaintiffs oversaw all aspects of their work and exercised ironclad control. That's true for all fucking volunteers of everything. Yes, Michael is right. They didn't pay us as much as we wanted. No! As noted in the complaint, most of the items needed for the convention are claimed by plaintiffs, not the individual defendants. Yes, but the things you stole. Notice they gloss over that part. The things claimed, like they claim they own everything. And that's how you can argue, I'm not an employee. I'm an employee because I don't have control over the assets, except for the fact you stole all the fucking assets. So I don't think I would not have made that argument here, because you kind of have to touch base on the fact of they're claiming control over all the assets we took. So you kind of put yourself in a position where this one here, you're kind of like J-Rock, and I don't know, Bama, if you're there, or O-Line Red or whoever. This one, I think, puts you in a bit of a spot here. Because you're acknowledging those things were taken are theirs, so it's not really yours. This is almost an admission that this is Ohayocon shit, in my opinion. So, yeah, I like that they're counter. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Michael. I mean, yes, you kind of summed it up better here. This is an admission. Your counterclaims requiring them to claim and admit we stole a bunch of their shit. So it's like they're acknowledging, yes, this is their property. It's claimed by the plaintiffs, not the individual defendants. So it's almost like you're tacitly admitting this is their stuff. Is this an admission against self-interest? Well, I mean, that's just a sloppily worded thing that could be used against them, I think. Because remember, if nobody owns Sekai Guild or Sekai Con, then the individuals own all the shit, but they're saying the individuals don't own all the shit. So now you're kind of like, well, which lily pad are you going to sit on? And I don't think that's clear here. I think it's a problem. And they say, more appropriately, the individual defendants were simply treated like employed workers, expected to arrive in a timely manner, perform needed functions, and depart when permitted. Yeah. Yeah, despite operating like employees, the individuals were never paid like employees. They didn't earn proper salary, wages, or other benefits for their time. They were an integral part of the convention's success, yet they were never correctly paid for their contributions. The plaintiff's incompetence led to the individual defendant's departure. Okay, so this isn't really necessary here. That's not necessary here. And Anderson Cooper's right. That's what happens when you have a volunteer shift. It's called volunteering. Yes. For those of you who have been in the military, you know all about volunteering for things. Getting voluntold. They made their complaints known to plaintiffs who refused to act. Throughout the pendency of their work, the individual defendants never signed any agreement not to compete, any confidentiality agreement, or any assignment of work product agreement. That doesn't mean you can't just steal shit, though. This is a horrible argument to make. Well, I never signed anything agreeing not to do it. Normally, when you go work at, if I go work at McDonald's, I don't normally sign an agreement agreeing not to steal out of the fucking till. That doesn't mean I can't do it. That doesn't mean I can't steal, the guy, the information to get the guy who fixes all the ice cream machines. Or how McDonald's has, their Coke syrup comes in stainless steel containers. That's why their Coke tastes better than everybody else's Coke. Because it's got, they have an OG inside agreement with Coca-Cola. But yeah, I mean, it's it doesn't work that way, guys. You can't just do this. Yeah, you have to take the fries out of the bag. Yes. Yes, Peter's right. I never agreed not to carjack you when you stopped at the light and I was begging for coins and washing your window. Yes. Yes, they get the original Coke recipe. They do. Bushmaster says they never have ice cream. I know, that was the joke. They never have ice cream, but they always have milkshakes. It's like they taunt you with that. But yes, this is a clear thing here where it's well, we never agreed not to fuck you over. It's that doesn't mean you can fuck me over. And they say the only agreement which existed was a volunteer agreement, which, while provided by the plaintiffs, was never executed by any of the individual defendants. Yeah, this is not working here, guys. This doesn't work. They say, in short, individual defendants were free to leave the convention's yoke with no fear of reprisal and start their own convention. Yeah, they were free to leave. They were not free to take everything. That you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You're saying, well, we didn't have any agreements and we weren't being paid, but we're free just to bounce whenever. Yeah. So anyways, they talk about in November 2023, they formed a competing convention, which they were permitted to do and are still permitted to do, as provided for in the agreed order. You're pushing your fucking luck now, guys. You're pushing your fucking luck here. So the competing convention, Sekai Con, or whatever, unsurprisingly drew attendees from the CES convention. Instead of either improving their process at convention to attract attendees or gracefully ceding the Ohio Anime Convention realm to the individual defendants. I love this. I don't wish to sue you. All I ask is that you kneel. They're like fucking Xerxes. I don't ask that you stand, only that you kneel. I am a benevolent king. So cringe. So cringe. This lawsuit alleged the defendants had misappropriated trade secrets of plaintiffs. This is incorrect. That's not true. Okay. The defendants operated some personal social media accounts, which at points were used to promote CES convention, but these were personal accounts not owned by the plaintiffs. Okay, but you guys, the trade secrets sought were in reality not trade secrets, but were publicly available, controlled social media accounts. The plaintiffs never bothered to create their own promotion infrastructure, and through this lawsuit, seek to tortiously obtain it from the defendants. Or they said, I'll handle this for the organization. You now assume that role for the organization. Yes, gracefully stop competing with me. Ohayocon is dragging. What's Dragon Con for retards? What's Dragon Con? I don't know the cons. So unsurprisingly, do they have a con like a convention for conventions? Like all the people who sell stuff or do convention signage and tablecloths and convention planning. Is there like a convention about conventions? Dragon Con's in the Virginia area. Anderson Cooper says, holy shit. What? I don't know. Dragon Con is like the biggest convention other than Comic Con. Okay, I'm a big fat guy with a beard, okay? I get it. But I don't go to cons. I don't go, things like that are not my jam. So. I only learned about the shit where, people are getting fired or thrown out of cons. That's how I learned about cons existing. I only know about Anime Matsuri because Nick went there. Or there's that one, the Chicago one, the C3 or CE3 thing, where EVS and people got tossed out of. That's the only reason why I know shit. You should go to the air traffic controller convention. Yeah. Dragon Con was one of the first giant cons. It's in Hotlanta. Cons are a lot of walking. Well, that too. That's why I'm never going to fucking SHOT Show. It's like I'll ever get into it, though. Kia Bavik says you have Anime Expo on the West Coast, Anime Matsuri in Texas for the Middle Americans, and Dragon Con on the East Coast. Snoop says Dragon Con's not in Virginia. There is one with sex trafficking. I'm assuming a lot of them. I sure goes on a lot about cons. Thanks, Bob. Brooks Euchre is saying, is Dragon Con a con for the dragon dildos? Yes. Well, there's DEF CON, yeah, but that's like a convent. That's not a con like we're talking about. But yes, DEF CON is an event. Yes. Okay, and then from watching Below Deck, I know there's like BravoCon and stuff like that. But like I'm talking about the anime things. Um, so unsurprisingly, the plaintiffs want free work and would rather obtain it through coercion than just compensation. Are they seriously arguing this is like fucking Auschwitz? Like it's a fucking anime convention. You can quit. You can quit. As you know, the lawsuit, Sekai Con has been damaged, and plaintiffs predict it has lost no less than 1,000 attendees due to the actions. Which, if each attendee generates approximately $100 in revenue, which includes income generated from admission and all other sources, comes to $100,000 in lost revenue. You really want to go down this road because notice, like Ohayocon is down 50%. 7,000 people doing $100. Do you really want to argue you owe Ohayocon collectively by using your own formula like upwards of $700,000 to $750,000? Do you really want to make this argument because you kind of you don't need to, like, Ohio is notice pleading. You don't need to be this specific in your complaint because now you're stating this as like your formula. Well, yeah, guys, that's not good. That's not good because now they can use this formula. Bill Capri says, "You watch Below Deck? What a queer." Hey, you know what? I liked Captain Lee. I'm not a fan of Captain Sandy though. Captain Sandy's kind of annoying. Captain Jason though, in Below Deck, Australia, that one's he's pretty good too. But I'm not a fan of Captain Sandy. I do like I think it's Captain Scott on the sailing yacht one. Like I like that one just because the yacht is pretty cool. That's a pretty dope. The sailing yacht's pretty dope, I think, personally. But yeah. So much respect gone. Tim Beatty says, "What the fuck is Below Deck?" It's kind of like it's kayfabe about like these yachts that get chartered by people, and it follows the crew around as they're dealing with asshole guests on their yachts, and then they just get drunk and like sexually harass and sexually assault each other when they're on shore. It's actually pretty good. So. Zaxarian says, "What about Worldcon? It's going to be in Seattle this year. Maybe Patrick will attend." Yeah. Michael Gelke saying, "Is Ohayocon better at legal filings because they listed damages having to pay hotels rather than non-provable claims like attendees went down?" Well, no, they said they lost their attendees. Their attendees went down a ton. The attendees went down a ton. You just never want to put something like this in because the other side, if they have similar issues, they can use your own formula. It's notice pleading. You don't have to plead every fact. And this is a fact they didn't have to plead. And they say this should have been a cordial pardoning of individual defendants from the yoke of plaintiffs. But plaintiffs refuse to accept competition and refuse to pay for work performed. They would rather seek recompense through a wrongful lawsuit. The individual defendants will not permit, one, such perversion of the judicial process. Okay, this is something I would write. This right here is like me. I would totally say this. Two, the recovery of assets by the plaintiff, which clearly do not belong. And three, their years of uncompensated labor to be taken advantage of. I would so fucking write that paragraph. Worldcon is cancerous. Okay. Below Deck is a completely woke Star Trek cartoon. Okay. Below Deck is also on Bravo. It's about people on a yacht, on the yacht cruise. So no, I'm not talking about some faggy Star Trek thing. I'm talking about the thing on Bravo with the yacht people. Okay. 2.0 told me all about that show, and I'm fucking hooked on Below Deck. Okay. What's the con with the furries? I don't know. It should be the fucking Air Force gunnery range is where they should have that. So both are pretty faggy. Yeah, we'll do with it. So that's Lower Decks, you dork. I don't know. People are bringing it up. I don't know what it is. I don't fucking watch Star Trek. Star Trek is gay. Star Trek is Star Trek is gayer than Bravo, and Bravo's pretty fucking gay. So Bill says, gotta clip that. Alyssa, clip this shit. Make a clip for your channel. 2 hours, 20 minutes, and 20 seconds. So unjust enrichment. This is an interesting claim here. So unjust enrichment is the idea that the plaintiffs were aware of and accepted the benefit conferred on them by the defendants. And it's because they conferred a significant benefit by providing work and labor for free. Now, they didn't affirmatively agree to provide the immense work or labor. They provided it gratuitously. So in such circumstances, it's unjust to retain the benefits. And they say they want to do it in excess of $100,000 to be proven at trial. So this work product, including plans, games, art, and relationships, exceeds a value of $100K. The Fair Labor Standard Act violations. The Fair Labor Standards Act, the FLSA, chat, it's a federal statute. But the Fair Labor Standards Act is a thing that's out there. And the Fair Labor Standards Act is primarily what you know it for, is for overtime compensation, where you get time and a half if you work more than 40 hours a week. They say the tortious interference with their own relationships, that their own relationships for Sekai were hurt. But remember, nobody owns Sekai. And so they want compensatory damages exceeding $100K. They want statutory damages exceeding $300K. They want all work product to be retained, the total loss suffered by defendants, and they want everything that they want to get. And these are the attorneys they're using. Alexander Fox. This guy started after me. He's got a higher bar number than I do. Geez, he's probably like a 2016 guy, I bet. Because mine is 0091537. So, but that's how you can tell how new people are, by their bar numbers. This is a fairly, actually, Claire Fisher. I'm going to look that up. Attorney Directory. Okay. FISHERC CLAIRE LAIRE. Okay, yes. So she was admitted. Oh, wow. 2024. She's a brand new attorney. Oh, buddy. She has barely been. Admission date November 12th, 2024. She is brand fucking new. She hasn't even been doing this 6 months. Wow. Wow. Oh, it's like an ICQ number? Yeah, that's your bar registration number. So. Yes, Anderson Cooper says, yes, $0 times 1.5 still equals $0. Yes. Star Trek was almost as gay as toasting bread. Well, why is toasting bread gay if you put bread in a toaster? Like, if you make a grilled cheese sandwich, you're technically toasting bread. Does that still make it gay? Even French toast. Is that gay? I mean, the way I say it, yes, is it kind of gay if you're making food for French toast all the time, but, whatever. Oh, there are 98,000 lawyers in Ohio. No. That's not how it started. It's like I forget the whole thing behind it, but there's attorneys who've been practicing 40 years who have very low numbers. They reorganized the number system a long time ago. They've redone it a couple of times, but this is the current setup they're on now. It's been that way probably for 20 years at least. So there you go. So that's a thing. So that's kind of where we are with this. I'm kind of curious to see how this shakes out, chat, because like I said, it's about Ohio stuff, but what these guys fucking did is pretty fucking nasty. Like, these guys were shitheads. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool, actually, at the end of the day, what's gone on here. You guys, like, I know you guys were kind of like, oh, this is gay, but after a while, even you guys were like, whoa, these guys did what? And like I said, there is so much cool shit in here to go over. So we're gonna get up some of the comments here, chat. Kia Pathic's like, you must be memeing from Legend. I came for a spurgout. What? A proper spurgout with guns, not Colonel Custer, and a rolling pin. Fucking wankas. Garrett says, a non-practicing attorney friend of mine in Minnesota told me Jamaicans like to talk about anime, Sean. I'm sure they do. Whiskey 77 says, anime is a gateway. Next thing you know, you're in Jamaica telling stories about Togu in white lines while your wife is playing 1800s Plantation Wife. Oh my God. You guys are so damn. Whiskey, thank you for the super chat. Yes. Chugi Show is saying, I'm later to the show than you because of the casino. Lol. Well, thank you, Chugi. Bob Johnson says the Spetsnaz might have to liberate that convention center. Yes. It's like I don't know if you guys ever seen the picture where it's somebody at a con and they're dressed up like an SS soldier, and it's the view from them behind them while they're getting ready to throw a hand grenade. They're throwing the potato masher, and there's a bunch of furries in the distance. And I think there's one where they're getting ready to set up an MG42 at the furries, that are like all in the distance. It's like, yeah, that's true. Hunch Dirty Roofer, how you doing, brother? Says the European theater of World War II is just a fight between left and right wing a fight between left wing factions. Yes. Kia Pathic says taxes. It's our taxes. And he says if you're a real weeb, you'd learn Korean, where most of the animation work takes place. Yes. Curious Country. It says Sofa commies. Yes, commies are everywhere, Adam says. And Cat Madison says, you didn't build it. We want ownership. Yes. Anderson Cooper says, running afoul of the CFAA, that's a bold strategy. Yes. Yes, they're falling. Nick Ricada said we could do it. Oh. So, Peter Keys says, we're playing the long game. Thank you. Yes, parlay is white people talk, not commie talk. Quebec says, what do you do when your volunteers go on strike? You get new volunteers. Yes, because they're volunteers. The National Labor Relations Act, the NLRA, does not apply. Meaning, if they go on strike, you can fire them and replace them. And you don't have to worry about picket lines and replacing their jobs and saving jobs. You don't have to worry about any of that because it's not under the the NLRA, the National Labor Relations Act. Eric Rodriguez said, oh no, the Discord kittens have been stolen. Yes. Yes, it's very true. EDW Raptor for $10. Thank you. Is saying Hella said to give you our hard-earned money for favors. And why am I looking at the other screen when I can use this one? EDW Raptor says for $10 again. Thank you, by the way. Rip George Foreman. You will be the best known by future generations for your contributions to the culinary field. Yes. The lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine. Yes. I think everybody has a George Foreman grill at this point. Squizgar says he is survived by his 5 sons, George Jr., George III, George IV, George V, and George VI, and one of his daughters, Georgina. Which I don't like. He named him basically all George. He was fucking weird. He was weird. Spet says, I am so financially illiterate, it's not even funny. Some dude says, flank in Japan, they call him Flank Sinatra. Spet says, apparently it's popular to get KFC in Christmas in Japan. Yes. In Japan, Colonel Sanders is viewed as a aristocrat, like of somebody of high respect and worth, because he's a colonel and he dresses in a suit. He is considered a very noble person in Japan. And yes, they love KFC in Japan. Adam A says you can't own air, man. It's like a Total Recall. Damn it, Kogan! Give the people the air! Michael is correct. I'm waiting for at some point in the future when we hear about Sekai Guild getting fucked over by the people, which I think will happen too. Which sounds like it should happen. Fred Rush gifted 5 subs. And Squizgar gifted 10 subs. Let's go, chat. Let's get subs. Let's do this. Let's do this, chat. Just get those subs. Just lay down the hate on those Grays, chat. Lay down the hate on those Grays. They can't run. They can't hide. And fittingly, there is a helicopter ride involved. Squizgar also says, our local elementary school had the beaver as their mascot. Create a bit of a stir when they started having girls' sports teams. Oh, no. Tech Guy South says, that snake mound is what Graham Hancock whined about being blocked from going to film. Yes. So, and if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the serpent mound is an actual thing. It's a real, where's there a good picture of it? Yeah, here you go. Let me see here. So, yeah, here you go. So here's the serpent mound. This is what it looks like. It's better when they, this is the serpent mound. It's a snake, and it's a slithery, snaky snake. The snake is snake, and it's got its head, and it's up here at the head, and you got a slithery snake, and he goes, "Ooh, yeah." He's like, "Hello." He's like, "Hello. I'm a slithery snake. Slither, slither, slither." He's like, "I'm a snake." I didn't know about Graham Hancock whining about that. That's interesting. Fred Rush says, how do I get the Weeb's Death Head ribbon? Yes, I don't know. That'd be funny. Squizgar says, how can you say the company that brought us a super successful Starliner, like Boeing, would not make a working fighter? Yeah, I know. It's like, huh. Yeah. Iconoclast says, the F-47 have a nickname yet? The new fighter, no. I was hoping for the Thunder Chief, too. Yeah, but the Thunder Chief didn't have the best reputation. I mean, it was a great high-speed bomber, but, when you took it into the, the nickname for the Thunder Chief was the Thud. The pilots who flew it called it the Thud because it would, thud into the ground. It was not maneuverable. It was kind of dangerous, especially over Vietnam. A lot of them got shot down. There's a great documentary on Amazon called Thud Pilots. It's really fucking good. It's pretty cool. Those guys talking about doing all the wild weasel work and shit over Vietnam and having to fight MiGs. Especially at the beginning when they were getting they do raids. They'd launch a strike package. There was just a bunch of thuds going in F-105s. And there'd be some F-4s there providing cover. And then they were just getting mauled by the AAA and SAMs, but also the MiGs, like MiG-21s, were just prowling around, chewing them up. And they were able to fight back a little bit. But then it took Colonel Olds and the Wolf Pack operating out of Thailand. I forget what tactical fighter wing it was, but they were operating out of Thailand. They had F-4s, and they took the transponders out of the Thunder Chiefs and the radios out of the Thunder Chief, and they would put them in the Phantoms, and they would turn them on, and they would just fly along as a formation flight of F-105s, and all the MiGs would come up to chase them, and they start fucking dropping MiGs because now they're running into F-4s equipped to dogfight. It's actually kind of funny stories. So I hope they don't call it the Thunder Chief. They can't call it because you have the P-47 and it doesn't work that way. So you have the Thunderbolt, But you know, the A10 kind of got the nickname Thunderbolt, so it's like the Thunderbolt 3. I guess I never thought there'd be an F-47, so I don't know. Bob John says no. Hito says no. Intrusion is wrong. Yes. Michael says you can get about 200 Sidewinders for the cost of one F-15EX. Yes, but what an F-15EX can do for you is worth the cost of 200 Sidewinders. It's like the one top tier fighter the production line's still rolling for. Other than like Super Hornets, it's not like there's a, like I'd rather have that than like an F-16 Block 52. I'd rather have like an F-15EX or an F-15SK. That'll do so much more, and that'll bridge the gap. It'll give you like a 4.5 gen fighter, which is going to be able to handle more than enough things and still give you the capabilities of an F-15 Strike Eagle. And you'll have brand new airframes because like the F-15C, that's the current air superiority fighter version. Those fuckers are old. Remember, the F-15 is a 50-year-old airplane. First flight, 1976. Like, yeah, we kind of need to do something here. Kia Paddock saying, I used to volunteer at a tournament. They started paying us a few years ago. Before then, I did it for the shirt or jacket. Yeah, and those are cool when you get the trinkets. Anderson Cooper says the medical staff at Woodstock were volunteers. Imagine if they just fucked off whenever. Well, that's what happens when you're volunteers. You could fuck off. There's CoomerCon. That would be awful. Chugi Show is saying, I'm a foamer. I like trains, not tracks, not cons. Thank you. Fair Frozen says, my favorite is the MILF Cat Doctor. Is that a below deck episode? Because we're kind of behind on the most recent season. We're like a whole season behind right now because I do this so much. Anderson Cooper says, no, they round up volunteers like in Ukraine. Yes, you're at the con and all of a sudden the draft police force you to start working. Oh, no. Snoop is saying, no, Sean, if you have a MO-24A system and a air system, your plane is burnt trash. You don't know shit about modern warfare. What did I miss here? What are you being all fired up about, man? Like, what are you talking about? Like, are you talking about running like SA-18s or like what? So, you're saying no, the volunteers at Woodstock had shifts. Oh, okay. Well. Oh, you're one of the retards who misinterpreted the name. Okay. Yeah, is a MiG pilot called a Migger? No. No. Sean as a Nazi is Sean at his most natural. Sean at his best. Thank you. Aquila says, you're awfully good at that voice. Which one? Which voice? The Nick Rekieta voice, the Redditor voice, or the the Wehrmacht voice? I'm not sure which one. Oh, I got lost in old comments. Well, I have to catch up. Where I was going to say, if it takes you 15 minutes to make a grilled cheese, you're doing it wrong. I don't think it takes anybody 15 minutes. So I don't know who says they took 15 minutes. It's like Minnesota and Ohio have the same gay cuck faggot water. No, we do not. Oh, I do grilled cheese in the oven? Use melted butter or mayo to... Hold on. Hey, sweetheart, are you awake? Babe. Okay, never mind. I've never heard of this. Okay. Grilled cheese in the oven. I mean, fuck, if I'm eating grilled cheese, I don't want to wait 15 minutes. Use melted butter and mayo to coat the top. Okay, that makes sense. And the bottom layers of the bread. Okay, that part makes sense too. $4.50 for 15 minutes. $450? Like, isn't that gonna burn bad? Oh. That's interesting. I don't 15 minutes at 450 degrees, man. I like it when you can just like when you could scrape like when you could drag something across it and you can hear kind of like the hard surface, just the scraping noise. And as it's cooling, you have to flip it back over to let the sides kind of not condense moisture on the bottom. That way you can keep it kind of rigid and crispy. But no, that just seems like that's way too crispy for me for a French toast. When you got hands like full hams and make a grilling machine, you can name your kids whatever you want. Yes. Yes. That's true. So, Elon will give us 3 titty ladies. Very true. Liz Dong Jones. What does he got to do here? What idiot? What does he got to do? The F-47 offers what new? We don't know what it offers new. We just know that China has something up in the air, and now we're scared shitless about it because we had canceled the next generation fighter program. And now we're like, all of a sudden, Boeing, you have the contract because China apparently has got something that kind of works, maybe. And now we're like, oh, shit. Yes, the MiG stole your bike. The Thud's primary defense was to run away, and it wasn't very good at that. Because the MiGs would bounce them really fucking hard. Goho Shane says the E-18 Growler. Yeah, those are good. I mean, piloted planes are too slow to be useful in modern warfare. I don't think so, but I mean, there's going to be a greater and greater reliance on unmanned vehicles. We're seeing that, especially as you try to do like combat against an integrated air defense system that's against a competent enemy. Yes, it would be very bad. So, like, for example, if NATO went to war in Russia right now and the U.S. Air Force went into Ukraine, we would lose so many fucking airplanes. And the thing is, we don't have a lot to start with, but the Air Force would become very risk adverse the moment an F-35 or an F-22 gets knocked out of the fucking sky. I mean, people don't realize it, but Desert Storm, we lost the Allies, the coalition forces lost like 250 aircraft during like the offensive operations. Oh, the gay snake voice. And the snake is snake voice. Yeah, that's not grilled. You do not grill in an oven, sure. 28 minutes at 178 degrees. Sean calling it that sandwich consult. Don't wake 2.0. Ask 2.0 for grilled cheese. See, I make her the grilled cheese. She doesn't make me the grilled cheese. I make the sandwiches. Is it baked or broiled? Yeah, it's with the broiler on. Yeah. Imagine planning a grilled cheese meal. Even I'm not that. I'm just like, okay, put the butter to the bread, put the cheese on, and put some white American in there. And just, all right, flip it, it should be good. And then let it sit for a second to cool off. Load it up with ham or roast turkey. Yeah, I'm not big on that. It's got a 12G turning radius. Yeah. Rosa says that just means more juicy government contracts for me. Pay my salary, pay pigs. I mean, we all got to work together to get ahead of the Chinese. The Monte Cristo, I've had one of those before. Not a fan. I'm not a fan of a Monte Cristo. Like I never heard of these before, and I was at a place and we went to a restaurant. And they had one. I was like, all right, I'll try it. Not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. You mean piloted frontline planes? Yeah, Overwatch, yes, but modern drones are like 100 to 1 or 1,000 advantage. Yeah, but I do think drones will be great for suppressing enemy air defenses. And yes, if you're trying to do interdiction or deep strike, yes, you're going to need piloted planes if you're doing combat air patrols. But yeah, that right up in your face close air defense or close air support, it's going to be entirely drone based. You're not going to get you're not going to get in the future helicopters just rolling in and strafing like troops in the open, or what we've had in the past. Amateur Iconoclast at 250 was a lot of helicopters. Yeah. Let's see here. Desert Storm aircraft losses. The Gulf War air campaign. Okay. Let's see here. Even better, Wikipedia does a list of combat losses of the U.S. since the Vietnam War, which, if you guys want to know combat losses, Google the combat losses in Vietnam. Holy shit, you don't realize how many things we lost. We lost a lot of fixed wing, but the amount of helicopters we lost is like fucking insane when you comprehend it. But the combat losses, let's see here. We'll go to Desert Storm, Desert Shield. So these are the combat losses for Desert Shield and Desert Storm, the entire thing. So, a bunch of stuff. Oh. The first one was Scott Spiker. He was the one we found later on. But, look at all the stuff, and it's kind of neat when you look at it. We had an A6 intruder being flown. And that's the thing. We lost a lot of things, An F-15 got shot down by some AAA. A Strike Eagle, and the pilot and the WSO were both killed. An A6 got shot down by AAA. An OV-10 Bronco. If you guys have never seen one of these are actually cool little airplanes that it's a shame we got rid of. But it was perfectly developed for Vietnam. It's dope what those things did. But we lost an F4. Doing Wild Weasel stuff. Just AAA, anti-aircraft artillery was dropping stuff. An F-15, F-16. Look at all these things that got shot down. An F-14 got shot down. And a Harrier got shot down. A Spectre got shot down. Have you guys never heard of that? That happened. That was a big deal. An AC-130 got fucking dropped out of the sky. An A6 Intruder, an A10 Thunderbolt, an F-18, a Harrier, an EF-111. That's the F-111 in its electronic warfare role, the jammer. They called it the Sparkvark because it was the electric aardvark. A-10s, getting down by AAA or an SA-13. And that's the cool one because it's the MTLB with the rockets on top. Pretty cool. I always thought that's a cool looking thing because they just basically strapped rockets on the top of it. Other A-10s, A-10s lost a lot. There were a significant number of Harriers. Harriers got lost. Broncos got lost. A Harrier, look at these losses, guys. An F-16 got dropped. That's a lot of aircraft to lose. And those are just fixed wing. It doesn't count rotary wing. If you guys didn't know that, imagine if that was today, we lost that many planes. And remember, those are the Cold War. That's the Gulf, Desert Storm was the Cold War U.S. military got to show off everything it had learned since Vietnam. And think about Vietnam was only 16 years prior. So in the 15 years since Vietnam happened, the end of Vietnam, 1975, and you could go to 18 years, really, if you wanted to be. Almost 20 years, to be fair. The 15 to 20 years since Vietnam happened, the Army and the U.S. military, reinvented itself, especially the Army. And they showed up out in the Iraqi desert and they whooped the fuck out of the Iraqi army. It helped the Iraqi army. Sucked. But think about if we sustain those. Like, those are losses when you had how many planes? Like the A6 Intruder, we didn't even have those within like 5 years. The A6s were completely removed and turned into artificial fucking reefs. The Harriers are gone now. You know, the Broncos are gone. The Tomcats are gone. You know, a lot of that shit doesn't exist anymore. The Legacy Hornets are gone. Think about if we lost some of that shit today. We lost like 10 or 15 F-15s. That's a lot of our operational fleet. Losing 2 or 3 F-22s. We only have like 170 some operational still. Imagine losing a couple of F-35s. Holy shit balls. That'd be bad. I didn't share the screen? Fuck me. It didn't share? Okay, sorry, chat. Okay, so here are the losses for Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Like, look at this. Look at this. An F-18 Hornet, an A-6 Intruder. If you guys have never seen, these are some of the, this is one of the coolest looking airplanes of the Cold War. From the movie The Flight of the Intruder and the book Flight of the Intruder. This was a top of the line strike aircraft developed in the 50s. It was a nuclear capable bomber from the Navy. It's pretty fucking cool. But look at all these airplanes we lost. F-15 Strike Eagles were getting shot down. The OV-10 Bronco. Sorry, Chad, I didn't see you guys there. This is a cool looking airplane. The F-4 Phantoms when they were still flying. You know, those F-4s were not flying very much longer in the U.S. military after that. You know, the F-16s were lost. Like, look at all these airplanes. An AC-130 gunship got shot down. And all 14 people on board were killed. You know, look at all these airplanes that got shot down. The EF-111 got shot down. It crashed while it was maneuvering to avoid missiles from an Iraqi pilot. Look at all these A-10s that got shot down. So, this stuff happens. Like this stuff there. I mean, yeah. It's a whole thing there, guys. And like this one's actually a sad story here. Like this guy got shot down northwest of Kuwait City. And he survived. He ejected and was taken prisoner. His flight lead was trying to protect him. He got shot down by a SAM, and he got shot down by a surface-to-air missile. And the pilot was killed. He died while trying to protect his downed wingman. As his wing, like kind of like a Flight of the Intruder, he's just sitting there strafing and fighting the Iraqis, and they killed him. Like, that's a sad one. That's a sad one. But look at all these planes that got shot down. That's a lot of fucking aircraft to lose. And those are Cold War. That's the Cold War military. How big was the Cold War military versus today? Imagine if we lost this much shit in a air campaign. Fuck. An F-18 crashes into San Diego Bay and people freak out. Yes, I'm supposed to show you too. Yes. The Brits lost a tornado. They lost a couple things. Eric says AAA, the car thing. No, anti-aircraft artillery. So like 23 millimeter cannons, like anything that's meant, any gun or cannon meant to be used, like high-speed cannons, like 57 millimeter, 30 millimeter, 20 millimeter, 37 millimeter cannons, 23 millimeter cannons, 14.5 millimeter cannons. Any ground fire like that is considered AAA, called anti-aircraft artillery. And we, like, a lot of airplanes got fucking shot down with that shit. So Vietnam shot down a bunch of B-52s. Yeah, we lost a lot of B-52s in Vietnam. They get swacked by a couple of get swacked by a couple of things out there. So let's see here. Grouped by the end of the Vietnam War. Let's see if list of combat losses. Vietnam. We'll try that. List of combat losses in the Vietnam War. So here we go. During the Vietnam War, 10,000 aircraft, 3,700 fixed-wing aircraft, 5,600 helicopters, chat. Like, look at that shit. You know, if you guys want to see the aircraft losses in Vietnam, there was a ton of shit that happened. There were also a bunch of unmanned drones, which, yes, we were using drones back in Vietnam. We were using all kinds of drones, which is interesting. So, but there's all kinds of things that are there. There's all kinds of shit we lost. Like the A1 Sky Raider, 150 in combat were lost. The A7 Corsair, only a couple were lost, but they didn't start too long. The A37 Dragonfly, which we're going to finish up. The original gunship, the AC-47 Spooky, also known as Puff the Magic Dragon. And they just put miniguns on the side of it. A bunch of those got shot down. The AC-119, the flying boxcar, was the same thing. It operated as an early Spectre gunship. The AC-130 Spectre itself, 6 of those were lost in combat. The B-52, 31 total were lost. 17 of these were shot down in combat. 17 of these things. So even a C-5 Galaxy got crashed while it was trying to evacuate people. You know, the biggest strategic asset the U.S. government has like that. But no, as far as getting to fighter planes and shit. The F-4 Phantom. The F-4 Phantom, 382 F-4 Phantoms lost in combat. Think about those numbers. We couldn't lose 300 F-22s. We couldn't afford to lose 300 F-15s right now. 300 F-16s. We couldn't afford those numbers. The F-100 Super Sabre. We lost 190 of those in combat. This is very early in the Vietnam War, but that thing is super cool, the F-100. The F-102 Delta Dagger, we lost a couple of those. The F-104 Starfighter, we lost a couple of those. The F-105 Thunder Chief, 283 lost in combat. You know, and then the F-105 other model, another 37. So over 300 of them were lost in combat. The F-111 Aardvark had some losses. We lost a couple of Strato tankers. We lost all kinds of shit. So, we lost all kinds of things. So, like, you know, all the different things there, like the helicopters that got lost, like U.S. Navy, like it lost its own versions of the Sky Raider. It lost a bunch of A4 Skyhawks, which John McCain flew, 195 of them in combat. The A6 Intruder, 51 were lost in combat. They were actually pretty survivable. They were pretty tough, and they were good. They generally flew at night to protect themselves. But, like, look at all these losses. The Navy lost 75 Phantoms of their own. You know, all the different things that got lost here. Rotary ring helicopters. The Navy's fixed base stuff. The Marine Corps, look, it lost its own set of shit. It lost its own F-4 Phantoms. It lost, like, these numbers add up so fast, chat. Now, like, we'll get to the Army. How many rotary helicopters? It lost one Bell 205 to Air America. So the AH-1, the Cobra, the Bell, the Huey, the Super Cobra, the initial thing, 300 of those were fucking lost. Like, look at these stats, you guys, if you've never seen these before. And we'll get to the ubiquitous ones, all the Huey models. So the models of the Huey, the UH-1s here, look at this. You know, 60 plus 1 plus 365 plus 886 plus 90 plus 18 plus 1,000, 1,300 and 176. Like, look at all the fucking, you know, troop-carrying helicopters that were lost. Think about all those. That is like staggering losses. Staggering losses to today. HM says we lost an AC-130. How did that not make news? Because it doesn't. It did in 1991. We crushed the Iraqis. We kicked their ass. Compared to the losses we would have suffered during the Cold War, that was a drop in the bucket. Also, the U.S. government thought the U.S. military prepared for like 10,000 dead fighting the Iraqi army. They thought it was going to be. They thought the Iraqi army was going to fight a lot harder than the Iraqis did. They thought we were going to suffer a ton of losses. So this was a bargain, and it made us look great. So no, the government was thrilled. Kia Pathas says Harriers don't get shot down; they fall out of the sky. Yes. Share screen, Sean. I'm sorry. So, EDW Raptor says the Air Force was great when Ohio's son, Curtis LeMay, was head of the Air Force. Yes. Yes. KLF is saying, what is that? I can't tell what that is. We need a cheap and easy to produce platform. It's called the F-15. We still make fuckloads of those for Japan, for Korea, for Saudi Arabia. The line's still fucking open. F-15 is the way to go. So the A6Es put in work. Yeah, they did. Usually get my attention with bright colored emojis. So the problem is, chat, I reconsolidated the StreamYard thing to the main screen. If I would have had it over here, I would have seen chat going crazy. But I didn't. I put it like back here. So when I switched tabs, I lost it. So sorry. Being a badass isn't sad, Sean. Yeah. To be fair to the A10, number loss at AAA. Yeah, but getting shot out of the sky by a SAM isn't much better. Yes, John McCain was more dangerous to the USS Forrestal than anything else. Yes, we've been using drones since World War II. Yes. The Germans had a radio guided bomb. The US by 1945 had developed a TV guided bomb that transmitted an optical image to an airplane where somebody could sit there and could control it. We were like, technology was leaps and bounds. Infrared night vision was developed by the end of the World War II. So the Banshees, yeah. Airwolf, Puff the Magic Dragon. Helping Hound says, no, shh. The B-52s didn't get shot down. Where's habitual crossdresser? What? I don't get it. Do we even have 300 F-15s? I don't actually know. Hold on here. F-15. How many do we have right now? Total of, how many have been built? A total number built between A, B, C, D, G, E, and DJ models. 1,200 have been built right now. Let's see here. Come on, get down to operators so I can check. Also, I'm not going to lie. Speaking of 15s, this is one of the coolest pictures ever. Doing an anti-satellite missile launch. That's something that's meant to shoot down a satellite. They strap it to the center line, and it takes off with gas tanks strapped to it, and it just takes off like a rocket. Because the F-15 has a positive thrust to weight ratio, and it climbs to about 60,000 feet and launches that missile up into the sky. So that's a cool thing about the F-15s. Where's the F-15 active? Because that's another cool thing. Okay, basic models. No, we don't need Strike Eagle developments. The prototypes. No. Yeah, where's the active? Oh, this is such a cool plane if you've never heard of it before. This is a technology demonstrator F-15. And it's got canards and shit on it. It was a high maneuverability plane. And this is what they were like. if some of you guys are thinking, wow, this is kind of like what the F-22 is going to be. Yes. With the directional 2D nozzles like the F-22 has. So, yeah. Yeah, with 3D, and this one has in the 90s 3D thrust vectoring. Like, I've seen videos of this thing. It does cool shit. So, oh shit here. Sorry, guys. Sorry, it's the F-15 right here, the active. It's fucking cool. It's got 3D thrust vectoring, canards, and everything. Oh. Put the screen in the bag, yeah. There's not that many C squadrons left, yes. But let's see, how many F-15s are there total operational in the U.S. military? Operators. This only covers the A, B, and C, D variants. For the operators of the other F-15E variants, we'll have to go to another one here. But like, okay, so how many does the U.S. government have? Right now, we have 168 F-15C and F-15D aircraft as of mid-2022. Okay. So let's see how many Strike Eagles we have, because that's the important thing. So the Strike Eagle's a 2-seater. It's also known as the Mud Hen, because if it's an eagle, it doesn't do anything. Like it's not an eagle if it's in the dirt. So let's see here. F-15 is such a boss-looking airplane. It's so badass. I'm not gonna lie. It looks so fucking cool. I mean, just like, it's like popping flares. Let's see here. All right, how many do we have? How many does America have? All right. United States. We have 219. So we have less than, like, we couldn't have, like, if this was Vietnam, they would just get eaten up. Think about all that. Think about all that. Yeah, there's not a lot left. You know, it'd be really cool if you could fucking see it. Well, I'm describing it for you. But yeah, we don't have that many airplanes, chat. That's not good. Like, think about those losses on a scale like that. We wouldn't be able to keep up. So, but no, real quick, what I was saying here was, and we'll skip back ahead. The thing I was talking about with the F-15 is, well, that's one of the neat things the F-15 can do is maximum performance takeoff, like straight up. And this is, where is it I wanted to show? This, the anti-satellite missile. It takes off straight up in the air, basically, to 60,000 feet and launches. And the F-15 can operate at 60,000 feet. It can go even higher, but that's about as far as it can go. But look at this thing is sexy. Look at how sexy this airplane is. Look at that, chat. It is sexy. It is such a good-looking airplane. I don't like it with his landing gear down. It looks all spindly and weak. But when it's in the air, it's just like, how can you not, this is a F-15 test bed. I like the Israelis, like, camo patterns. I mean, I'll give them that much. The Japanese, the F-15Js. I mean, just look at this plane. It looks so fucking cool. It's got the conformal fuel tanks. And they strap them onto the sides, and they just look like it's very fat. So, and that's how those things work. So, and this is what it looks like with the fuel tanks on. It just looks really bulging around the sides, but it doesn't change anything. You could still arm it with all the weapons. It's got a bigger fuel tank. It's called a conformal fuel tank. It allows it to maintain aerodynamic ability. So, yeah. So, I finally spared a screen. Yes, thank you. The Air Force Museum in Dayton is sick. Yes, we had 219 6 years ago. Yeah. How are we doing on tanks? We have a lot of tanks. We have a lot of tanks, and then we have all the M1s. If you guys ever Google the Sierra Army Depot out in California, we have a bunch of like original M1 Abrams, like the original 105 millimeter Abrams tanks sitting out in the desert, waiting. We can upgrade those very quickly, because you don't change the turret size to upgrade an M1 to an M1A2. You just have to add shit. So, the F-15 is better looking because the air inlets are tilted inwards. Yeah, I don't know. The F-14 is pretty gnarly. But the F-15 still, it looks like a shark in the air. It looks like it's meant to fight. It just looks good. So, Colostomy Bag says, not gonna lie, Sean, I've never seen those lost numbers. Are the NAFO stealth people right about the F-35 mostly wiggle official? I mean, the F-35 would probably be very survivable in these environments, but we would fucking lose like, how many do you think we would lose? We're gonna lose some. And how many is the government, like the Air Force, willing to lose? I mean, the Air Force and the military in general is not as risk averse as it was back during the Cold War when they were prepared to sacrifice men to win a battle. You lose like 10 airplanes, I guarantee you the Air Force changes its position very quickly. The first time an S-400 swats an F-15 out of the sky and then shoots down like any of the rescue attempts, or they get hit with like a Strela, it's going to fucking change the calculus of everything. Like, God forbid, like an Su-35 chucks an R-77 out into the air and knocks a fucking AWACS out of the sky. Or even just a missile. They even have to prepare to avoid the missile. You will change the U.S. military's air capabilities in a heartbeat. So no, it'll be very different. Key path is that's just beef. It's required to operate. I thought the EX had a back one too. Wait till we have our golden dome. Yes. Aaron Proxy says shit welding and all. Yes, there's a giant boneyard. Well, it's at Davis-Monthan down in Arizona. Yes, we also have 750 Vipers, 180 F-22s, 500 plus Super Hornets, and 350-ish F-35s. Yes, but the F-15, I think, is a far more valuable airframe than an F-16. Crystal says, this is why South Africa can't go to war with you guys. We suck. Yeah. Michael says, and what kind of a war? Yeah, I guess we lose 200 plus F-35s. I don't think the military could. The military is willing to. The leadership of the military would not be willing to suffer those kind of losses. EDW says, yes, we lost an F-117 in the Balkans. To be fair, we were lazy. We flew the same route every night. They kind of figured out where it was going to be, and they figured out where he was going to drop his weapons, and they caught him when he had opened his doors and destroyed his stealth capability. So the Serbs, with the Russian and Chinese help, had figured out where to place all their units and hit it at the right time. So that was more of the government, the U.S. force being lazy. Oh, there's one out in California where they do all the test flights too. Really? Oh. You've been to the Boneyard. It's badass. Yeah. Never underestimate a man in a tracksuit with the 3-hole balaclava. Yeah. Yes. So, Zemis says, how long does it take to build these things? Well, I mean, like it's not. You're not like doing World War II. You're not doing World War II style production, but it's it's quick-ish. But like it's not the same. It's a slow process. Like the F-15 production rate right now. What is it currently? Let's see here. What is the production rate for an F-15? So Boeing right now can build 2 a month for the EX, the F-15 EX, the top of the line thing. But starting this year, they authorized full rate production for the F-15. The new F-15 electronic warfare system starts full rate production. So, like, and that's just like, this is just upgrading shit. And yeah, like, there's only so much you're going to be able to do. But yes, upgrading is, upgrading shit. It's like, they plan to buy up to 150 EX fighters. But like, there's only so much they can do. So, Boeing is increasing the production rate to 2 aircraft a month by 2025. So, yeah. They can only build so many at a time. It's not a World War II setup. So, the government is afraid of the time or costs. They're worried about getting people who can handle them. Yes, but the military leadership is concerned about losing assets. So if they started losing they'll ground a lot of things or change ROEs in an instant if it happened. So that's all I'm trying to say. Oh, yes. Oh boy, 24 a year. Yeah, that's yeah. Yep. Very sad. Dimitri Bell says, Can you tell me the book about the German retreat from Stalingrad and how they stabilized their lines? Yes. It is On a Knife's Edge by Prit Batar. But it's from the end it's from when Stalingrad gets encircled up to the lead up to the Battle of Kursk. Because remember, Kursk is in the summer of 1943. So less than 6 months after Stalingrad ends, you're in the Battle of Kursk. That's how massive the Eastern Front was, especially in the first half of the war. You went from Stalingrad, one of the biggest battles, to the largest armor engagement at that point. Like a massive armor engagement. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. Highly recommend this book. Highly recommend the book. Let's see here. You want to see what losses? Check out the number of tanks, APCs, and infantry fighting vehicles on Iraq or Ukraine. Yeah, both sides have lost thousands and thousands of things. Yes, like it's insane how much stuff has been lost. Yes, the Nazis lost twice in Kursk. Yes, Tick has a great Stalingrad series. Yes, he does. Especially when he talks about like the food rations, and he talks about like how at first it was like a loaf of bread a day, and then by the end it's like you get half a slice of bread. It's like So yeah. So North Africa was going off at the same time, wasn't it? In 42? Yes. So, and no butter. Yes, that would be the shame. All right, guys. Well, it's 12:30. It's late. We're gonna wrap up. We spent a lot of time bullshitting, and I'm glad we got to the important stuff over an hour ago. But I think this is a very interesting case. Like I said, it's Ohio related. I know, boring part, but what actually was done here is pretty ballsy. You steal all of the shit, and then you act like you're entitled to it. So, but we're gonna wrap it up, guys, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And we'll have something planned. I'm gonna say, I don't know. I'm just gonna go to sleep because I've had a long week and I need to get some Z's. But then we'll be back at it tomorrow. We might try to watch some of the Karen Reed stuff. I'm not sure, just because it was like a long fucking hearing this week. But there are other things we can catch up on as well. We might take a look at the case out of the Ninth Circuit a little closer up. When does this case resolve? They've barely just got started. It literally got filed in January, and we're only 2 months in, so we're not even close to resolving it yet. I'm sure this is going to go into discovery. I bet this might actually go to trial. So it'll be very interesting. And yes, F1 is this weekend. We are going to do the Chinese Grand Prix. So get ready for that. Fingers crossed that Ferrari can pull it out. Not holding out on that, especially with Lewis around. So I guess go McLaren. Beat Red Bull. All right, chat. I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, until next time, just because you're a volunteer doesn't mean you're entitled to somebody else's work, especially if you're a scumbag communist. Good night, chat. Take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy?